Hey, buddy.
Hey,
Are you
turtle
waving at
and
me?
enigmatic. Yeah, you just waved at me. I just saw your hand. I didn't see my hand.
I
But that's the
saw
first
I
topic. Yeah,
the
we
first
gotta talk
stuff in
the updates,
the
the stereo updates.
This is the first. This is
Creepy,
scary. This is the first time I'm using it.
creepy.
Yeah, I look like a Chucky doll the way it's moving, and
Yeah,
I
I mean,
don't like it.
ma- the blinking's not too unnerving. I remember that being one of the earlier
Yep.
topics, but
Yeah. We used to talk about this as a joke of like, oh, it's weird how we don't blink. But I was always like, I'm okay
yeah.
with it. I don't want to see what it look. The blinking is not as unnerving as the way my head is swaying. It feels weird.
Yes. It's like everybody is Stevie Wonder in this app and has to do that little sway. I don't know.
I feel like it's more like Ray Charles. Yeah, it's like Ray Charles. It's like you're blind and on crack, you know?
Yeah, blind and on crack or blind and playing piano. Similar movements. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I
I mean,
hate I will never have a body. I'm sticking with my beard. No body.
you have a body. The app is showing me your
No.
body right now. Yeah, you have a white shirt.
Well, that's the gray bodiless body. But I guess it does look like a gray shirt.
I mean, whether you want one or
Creepy.
not, you now have a body, and it's showing it to me. It's just the default white shirt, which in some ways could go with your brand of just like, this is a
Oh
shirt
yeah.
that society makes me wear generally, and I'm not gonna wear anything else, and that's okay. But like whether you like it or not, just like capitalism, you currently have a body, and it's chill, it's good, it's whatever. How are you?
It's pretty good overall. Yeah, last comment about the body. Um it's gone. I don't have it anymore. Anyway, let's talk about your comedy during these hard times. Comedy
Yeah,
during the COVIDs. I know you probably talk about it plenty, but
I
how's it
don't.
been? Are
I
you like
never.
hitting up coffee shops? I see you've like met with Susie and other famous comedians. So
Yeah, yeah. Um, I met with Susie a while ago. We were gonna hit up again. I haven't. She's busy. She's like working at the Comedy Cube too. Uh, and but yeah, I've been here. I've been hitting some mics. I have a show tomorrow. Here in Los Angeles. I basically, I was
nice.
back and forth for a while, and then I try to do, you know, build team and I decided to go full throttle and quit my job, and I'm studying for the California bar. And while I'm doing that, I'm really leaning into this comedy game and getting it done.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
awesome. It's like I've been like obviously I was like following all of comedy on Instagram and stuff and I went back and forth with that, but it's cool to see people actually doing it and like growing a bit of a fan base no matter how you're not going to make money on it. You're not going to be good for 10 years is what they always say in comedy. Like it takes 10 years to like be a new face in comedy. Like Robin Tran is one of the newer faces.
yeah. I don't know. I think that the paradigms are kind of antiquated. That advice because they're talking about from their experience. I think
Mhm.
all comedians are now have to be influencers and they have to understand
Exactly.
the metrics of who are traditional gatekeepers, and sometimes people who start just doing comedy without any life experience, they they don't have a lot to give right away because they haven't lived and they don't have experience outside of that is different or distinguishes them. And so you can make a lot of breakaway really fast, and I've seen a lot of success, and I have, I'm saying that I'm like living off of comedy, but I'm from just starting with you on stereo, and have bookers, and I'm booked on a show tomorrow, like a real comedy show with real comedians, and I'm networked with a lot of people, and I've been hitting them. I mean, you have to be in a big comedy space, right? So you need to be in LA or New York
Mhm.
or Chicago.
It's helpful for sure. I've heard like New York spot you can get spots all over. LA I've
Right.
heard it's like harder, but still it's like yeah, it helps to have like no matter what, you're gonna be on social media. You're gonna maybe not to Mark Norman level of like, paying that close attention to everything, but like you
Right.
have to do your own kind of comedy marketing.
Well, there's been several comedians who started on Clubhouse basically, and the main example of people say is like Leah Lamar. She was sort of like this nobody who, um, and started her comedy room, right? These virtual spaces, and really
Hmm.
leveraged this pandemic, just like we leveraged the pandemic
Yeah,
and used stereo, and really helped us and revitalized. Well, at least for me, when we were doing our show and I was on here and being creative, that was a space I hadn't been in my work, and was a reconciling that I was pretty stifled. And so it was like, bam, this is something I really want to lean into it. And the further I leaned, the more I like fell, and it was like good falling. It was like, am I falling without
yeah,
a parachute? I'm like, I'm falling without a parachute. And then it's like someone
yeah,
eventually hands you the parachute. And that original adrenaline is really scary. But if you just keep falling, eventually, like, they're not going to let you die. The world isn't going to let you die. And you just got
yeah.
to believe in yourself and go for it.
It's funny you say falling because like Pete Holmes' Crashing is like amazing, like love letter to comedy. I don't know if you've watched that, but it's like the same thing. Like a lot of a lot of people that try to make it, drive to LA, whatever the history of making it used to be, living in your
Right,
car. Like
right,
it's the pandemic kind of like gave everyone a bit of time,
right.
forced like forced
I
rest
mean,
in a good way for some.
I have a sense of confidence too because of, um I guess I have been like, I was doing comedy 10 years ago. I was at UCB doing improv before I went to law
Yeah,
school, and
yep.
then kind of quit and came
You,
back to it. It's not the traditional trajectory, right? But I always kind of had that in the back of my head, and it had kind of been like a dream, and I kind of let it be stifled, and now I'm kind of falling back into it. But that is probably more than a 10-year trajectory in some ways. And then whatever time is hard to consider when we think about the pandemic as a whole as well. But there's an element I find that doesn't give me any stage fright, in that, like, I've had to perform where if I didn't perform, the stakes would be that my client would go to prison, right? And anytime
yeah,
I get
that's
on
way.
stage,
Yeah.
yeah, anytime I get on stage, I never have that same weight. And
That's got
so
to be
it's
freeing.
very
Yeah.
uplifting. Yeah, it's very freeing. It's like, this is just art. This is for me. Um, and I've been here, and I've had to perform, and I've succeeded when I needed to succeed, and known that pressure. And that, even though it is not the traditional time spent at the mics and the shows and putting the work, is a similar life experience where it gives you that confidence boost where you had to perform. And
Hmm.
in a lot of ways, is way more stressful, because at the end of the day, if you bomb as a comedian, that's just about you and your ego and your humility. No one's life is on the line. And when you had someone's life on the line, you had to perform under that pressure and that adrenaline and that stress. It's,
Hmm.
every single time I'm like, this isn't someone's life. I'm not representing anyone right now. This is just for me, and that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it is. And like good comedians bomb, like great comedians, like you will always bomb as a comic, which is one of the things like if you're working in a more intense like in law, that actually has giant impacts on people. So it's cool to
right.
see you've been able to take that break. I've been taking a bit of an unintended break, but
I love
it's
that.
kind of opened up
What have
stuff. And
what have you been doing?
I mean, I put the YouTube on hold. I've been back and forth with personal stuff and feeling
Yeah.
more regular. I say that basically every time, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm getting back into more regular jujitsu. I'm writing more when ideas come to my mind. I'm actually typing them out in my Google Doc and at least getting material that comes to my brain on paper, on computer.
Yeah.
Um,
Just do it. I
yeah.
mean, that's what I realized was,
Hmm.
I was kind of doing that on stereo, and then I started really doing that on TikTok, really, and I'm writing jokes, but also just using it as a personal diary, which they say for growth you're not really supposed to do, right? Like, so maybe I would have more than the 4,000 followers that I have, right? But it's been really cathartic to just like,
Yeah.
if you have an idea, get out there and do it and put it out there. Um,
Yeah.
and
And it's like
you know,
TikTok can be like a joke that you think might not make the stage, right? That you're like, ah, this is like a nice thing I'm feeling in the moment. And it's like a better version of Twitter, and you get to connect to a huge audience. It's not like you're gonna just get people finding you more if you're on
well,
there at all. So
you get to rewatch how you delivered it, how it's received, the reception, like how you look saying it. It's an amazing tool for comedy, right? Because you're
yep.
literally that's what comedy is, um, and so you can hone your voice and understand what you sound like, because that's the hardest thing about comedies is we don't have a perception of what we sound like to other people, right? I mean, we have a little bit based
Mm-hmm.
off of our lived experience of people being like, oh, you're funny, oh, you're very deadpan, right? Like, are you like slightly
Yeah.
autistic? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Oh, are you doing an Andy Kaufman bit right now? Like, what is happening? And you have
Yeah.
that, but that's all bouncing the ball off of other people, right? And this gives you your own inlet into that. So like, even if you're like scared, you shouldn't be scared. You should just fucking do it, right? And like, the new cultural zeitgeist right now is also allowing people to have, mental health and recognizing that everyone has mental health issues, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
not being
That's
scared
the
of that.
biggest
So
hashtag. Mental
right,
health awareness. It's
right.
that's everywhere.
And
Always
that's
now.
also
Like that's
about
the biggest industry
succeeding.
coming out of this.
Yeah, and who it's
Mm-hmm.
also the comedy industry, right? Like, an observational Jerry Seinfeld comedian won't succeed today, right? Because like, unless they're doing
Right.
something very inventive, but everyone, because of Instagram and social media and the constant content that we get, it needs to
Mm-hmm.
be more personal, right? Because everyone is creating content.
Totally.
Everyone is a content creator. Even your mom is a content creator, right? And so when you're on a stage,
Hey. Don't
yeah,
bring
I've
my
seen her
OnlyFans into it. I'm just
OnlyFans.
kidding. I'm just kidding.
It was
OnlyFans is
some
where
good
it's at, by the
content.
way,
Let her
right?
know what.
They're totally back on board with the whole showing the whole body. I think that was just a
Yeah,
PR stunt,
I think it
just to
was a
get
PR
attention.
stunt. I mean, I think that
Yeah.
they probably had some truth to it, of like they had some issues with backers and Visa being able to secure them and being scared with their seed funding, and then they basically used that to get the seed funding that they wanted. They really manifested that, and I'm really proud of
Yeah.
OnlyFans, and that's why I subscribed to your mom's OnlyFans just this morning.
Beautiful.
I
See, I'm
said
still tentative. I'm still a little scared, so I'm not quite made that jump yet. But
to
times are tough. I
OnlyFans,
might have to.
or you mean
Yeah,
TikTok? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
to
Well,
OnlyFans. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I
I
don't think I'll
mean,
ever get on the
yeah.
OnlyFans bandwagon. Although sometimes I'm like, what am I like? You just get too deep into your TikTok, and you're like, this is crossing a
Yeah,
line.
there's
What
too
am I
much.
doing? Yeah, yeah.
There's too much. There's like you should have a few platforms that you major in essentially, and like maybe you're on the other ones and you have something there for discoverability, but there's too much. There's too many platforms at this point that like it's nice to have just a few like
Well,
yeah.
you remember when we
But
were working on our show, when we were working on our podcast and doing and trying to create like our morning news comedy show, like, which I think we should try to get back into, like, uh
yeah,
we were talking about doing it on like YouTube Live and all these things. And it's like the idea. Well, it was totally unsustainable. I was working a full-time job, 80 hours a week, and I was like, we're gonna wake up at 4:30 a.m. and get this done.
and I was a full-time fuckboy at the moment, so it was very very bad timing.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
But like
I'm
we
yeah.
were believing in ourselves and leaning into it and all of that stuff. But hey, what can you do?
But
At the end of the
back to
day,
comedy
though.
being personal though. Oh, sorry. Carry on.
What'd you say? No, but like, I
No,
think that you can still get it done, but it's true. It's so hard because all of these platforms, right? Like, the benefit right now is that they give you your ability to be your own movie studio if you want. Like, they let you use your phone to be a camera and to set up lighting and enhance all these things and give you, I mean, the most important thing they give is an audience, right? But it's
oh yeah.
hard to do everything well, right? And I feel like TikTok is good for me because it helps coalesces with comedy, because I can use it as a blog, video journal, but I'm also can work out that I can work out what is my comedy, what is my jokes. I can see something on the street that is maybe depressing, turn that into a bit, or even just describe it, and then I've captured it as something that I want to talk about, right? And so that is very
Yeah.
powerful. Um, and you can because YouTube is trying to compete. They're all trying to compete and become each other, right?
Oh yeah,
Um,
they're all like paying attention to like, oh, there's audio stuff. So now Twitter's got their Twitter Spaces audio, Clubhouse version. There's so many, like Spotify, Clubhouse exists now. Like there's,
right.
it seems like everyone's just kind of figuring out, oh, and hopefully it's in a positive, for mental health with like all the Facebook, Instagram, teenage girls, also
No,
like
I mean
middle-aged men are also depressed from it.
I
But
saw that's
yeah,
what Miss Smitty and Ryan are talking about just now, is because
oh,
they're having those congressional hearings right now about Instagram, because they had this insider knowledge about the fact that, like, they have the statistics to show that Instagram right now makes teen girls want to kill themselves, right? Like, that makes
yeah.
sense, right? Like, even us as
I
adult
mean,
men
and
in our
yeah,
30s,
middle-aged men.
like, you can, and middle-aged men, maybe you too. Like,
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
it's a
I had to
scary
curate.
place.
That was the
It's
thing. You really have to
right.
curate the proper feed for yourself, and like, yeah, it's so interesting because the physical world has had that for so long, right? Like physical products, lead, all these like things that are toxic to humans. And so we're still dealing with that, but now we have it in the digital world as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, it basically takes traditional advertising and it turns it into a high school. But the high school is the world, and you're competing with everyone. And if you feel like you're on the bottom of the barrel, they don't even show people like you. And if they don't show people like you, then who the fuck are you and what is your worth? Because your worth is only your followers, right? Like, it's showing you through numbers. And for a developing mind, like, that is very, or a fragile mind, either one, like,
Yeah.
that is, and there's no warnings. And the problem is people are addicted to that, right? Because if you are want to always check if you look like the people, or if you can fit in with the people, you're going to be addicted to it. That is the
Or
Las
just, is
Vegas
that girl hot?
casino element,
Like,
right?
is that guy hot? Like random, like it's gonna happen in your head. Like that's what's bouncing around at a glance. So
Right.
it's yeah,
Because that's natural
cool.
human nature, is you look at someone and you say, like, am I going to be friends with them based off their voice, based off of how they dress, based off of how in shape they are, based off of their aesthetics, right? Based off of their symmetry,
Yeah,
right? Like, every single day our minds are naturally doing that, because we are primates that are naturally try to find pack order, right? Like, we are monkeys who are used to a pack sensibility of trying to fit in a group, and
yeah,
categorizing each other of who is the smart one that can figure out the tools to open the coconuts, to get the bugs, to get the fruit. Like, who is going to be able to be strong enough to, like, lead the pack, and who's going to be the fertile female,
yeah.
right? Like, that's all just,
Oh yeah,
those are just natural attributes of primates, and that's what we are. And so this is turning it into, now you can do that with the world, but it's through this
yeah,
lens of filters, and it fucks with people's minds. It fucks with everyone's minds. But of course, it's going to fuck with teen girls' minds the most, because they're just, like, the most fragile, right?
yeah, for sure.
Not all teen girls. There's some pretty strong ones out there, but, like, I think the biggest
Yeah, how
users
dare
of
you
social
generalize?
media, I think it probably affects guys too, but I think it's harder to do statistical analysis on that, because men are so scared to talk about how, like, the emotions tied to social media, uh and
Yeah,
all of that.
it feels like it's
And,
getting a little better though. It does seem to, like, with the visibility of everything, like if everything is public, like I feel like the whole, like the dude that's gonna break open the coconut, we've elected people based on them saying they're really good at opening the coconut and like persuading and being the best actor, Ronald Reagan, whatever. Now if everything's like more public and we're like hearing these people actually have real conversations, about policies instead of it being like a 1,000-page bill that nobody's gonna fucking read. Like that's the most annoying thing in the world is the inability for like normal citizens to, eavesdrop in something that's not C-SPAN,
Right, exactly. It's crazy. I mean, I think the future is going to be like congressional hearings will feel like Clubhouse and stereo, and like there's going to be more
Yeah.
interactivity there. Um, and the problem is like that's how they're realizing that's how people learn, that's how they interact is in what's called the Socratic method, right? Traditional teacher talking and you listen is not as good as teacher saying, what does this say? What does that mean to you? And having a, that was literally the way that teaching methodology was founded from the point of Socrates, and
I didn't know, so I thank you for speaking these things. So I didn't have to
right.
find it in a random YouTube video that I would forget later.
Yeah, so the Socratic method is the method that's traditionally taught in law school, right? So it's you are supposed to come prepared to have read all the material, not because it's your grade. Your grade's the final at the end because you will be shunned by the professor because they will call on you. There's callback, there's interactivity. And that is what we're getting here. It's a type of stimulation where it really, because you're actually interacting with the human instead of just watching the human, our attention spans are respond to it better, and our attention spans are now getting used to it because it's being offered more, that it's harder for us to watch traditional, like I feel like it's hard to watch movies sometimes when you have the option of like Clubhouse, because it's like when you have a friend over, you're not like totally watching a movie, right? Or a chick over, or a dude, like however you swing, whatever it is, like it's hard. And
Not
now
a kid though. No kid. You can't swing that way. That's not accepted. But yeah, whoever you have over. No. Well, you can push them. But
it's the same thing, if they're your kids, it's harder to enjoy a movie, right? And then you end up just watching Frozen because they can watch it.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, so you're in Maine now?
No, I drove across from Seattle back to Maine to visit family. I got family that's in nursing, and so seeing like the worst of COVID and all that shit. So it's like really, and for the longest time, I felt guilty to even think of visiting family, But at a certain point, like I'm like I don't want to, have this person pass and me not have spent like a chunk of time with them. So, yeah, I'm still Seattle based. More mobile than I've ever been, but put some miles on the car.
Nice.
I mean, ridiculous drive though. I don't know why I did that. That was too many miles.
Really? I kept driving back and forth from LA to Denver, and I really loved it. I mean, honestly, I've kind of had this new fond, because I had that electric car for a long time, and after I quit my job, I bought a new car. I bought a Subaru, and I was just like, I have been tied down by this fucking EV Leaf for so long.
Yeah.
And I felt Teslas, so free.
You can only go like a few hundred miles before you have to go to a Walmart or something and hope somebody's not using the future charging.
Outside of Denver, it was like there was nothing there. Like you're in the mountains, and so like I literally, and my car was a 2014, so now here I am in 2020. Like its battery is already not at its full capacity anymore. It would, like, there were many times I was like, if I push this, I'm on the brink of like being stranded, like all the time. There was like a constant fear, and my ADHD and my tenacity to think like I can overcome everything. I am King Kong. I am a champion. Like, didn't let me recognize that like this was a big problem in my life that was preventing me from like just being able to like move and travel, and that's such like a privilege and like a beautiful liberty. But anyway, you're burnt out from the driving, is that what you're saying?
I did it too much all at once. I did like I was really just in my car. I did the California thing, drove around there for a few weeks. Went back to Seattle, took care of some things, and then ended up going east. Saw George Washington's stone face all that good stuff. The
Oh,
Badlands.
nice.
Ended up seeing
That's
that.
awesome. You went to Rushmore and
Yeah,
Badlands. That's awesome.
yeah. So I was like, I was really just preparing to force too much instability in my life, I think. Um, but the ability to, yeah, like my car is still a pretty, the hybrid, the ability to actually get gas has made it so I can really still go wherever.
Yeah, gas is
Anyway.
amazing. Anyway, I think we just said we're pro gas here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll get there, hopefully. It seems like the world is paying attention more and more. I mean, it's fucked no matter what. If you look too much into it,
Yeah.
we're all
I mean, the
fucked.
problem
But
was, I mean, the cars now are so much better than my car was. I thought I was so cool that I got, I got my early electric vehicle, and it was just too soon. You know what I mean? And it became this
yeah,
big hindrance in my life. And I think I like to project this like environmentalist vegan thing, and and in some ways, like the manufacturing of those cars is still eating up so much fossil fuels. Like it's okay
right.
when it's impacting your life that much to just have the luxury of using gas.
Yeah,
But
I got a little hybrid though, so I at least feel half good. Like it gets like 400 plus miles per tank and whatever. So it was pretty cool to take that, across and not pay crazy amounts for gas.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. All right.
Um,
Well, we can call this. This is a good 30-minute block of us talking. Thanks for talking Tuesdays. That way we can
yeah,
steal Tuesdays with Stories, people that are looking that up on YouTube. We just happen to have Tuesday in the name of our podcast. So I'm,
yeah.
I'm thinking ahead for us.
I love that. I love that.
Turtle
Susie and
Journal can still go. Yep.
Susie and Elizabeth, they switched their show to IG Live, which I think
I
makes a lot
saw
of
that.
sense. I think it makes a lot of sense because every time you go live, you get more viewers. Like it's hard to get. It's not like TikTok where like you can make a video and it like it's people are on Instagram are very like, who is this person, and like
Yeah.
no, just because they have
And it's
content,
the
they'll
UI.
consume the content. What'd you say?
The UI itself, like with the bubbles up top, anyone you're following, as soon as they go live, they get pushed to the front. That's absolutely going to be in all social media platforms. I'm pretty sure. Like it's very effective and like, it makes it so you can pop in and pop out easily.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
other platforms haven't quite got as smooth as that one.
And there's, you're basically doing the same thing as stereo, but there's an actual user base that is based on who already follows you, but there's a bigger outside world user base as well. But I miss
Yeah.
stereo as well. Um,
Yeah, I like
but
both. Like this will slowly grow. I'm surprised it hasn't grown as much. Like people know Clubhouse, but there's a bunch of different types of stereos out there nowadays, I guess, because everyone's like, okay, just social media platform without your face, just audio. That's like, so you see a ton of them out there now.
right, because the problem with social media these days is as soon as one launches, there's a copycat, right? And
Yep.
it's whoever has the most seed investors, like the most money, like, and so Clubhouse had Silicon Valley's backing way more than stereo. Stereo is like, and there's all
I
these
I was
copycats.
surprised. Yeah, I like stereo was like I was under the impression that they like purposefully did not have a marketing team to like let it organically grow, especially in the beginning. Um, that was just like a guess, but it's
No, I think that they just don't have as much money, and they used it
well,
all on
they gave it
trying
all
to
to
build.
Adam. They gave it all to Adam Carolla, Jeff Ross,
Right, right.
and maybe Paula Poundstone. I feel like there were like a few names, a year or so ago that like popped in. But
Yeah, but the problem
it's
was
interesting.
Clubhouse simultaneously had Elon Musk, Oprah, like, right, like,
Kim.com. Yeah.
right, like every single person was on Clubhouse. Like the person behind Clubhouse is like the person who makes apps happen. He's like like, and so they're both spending millions and millions of dollars. It's just hard to compete. And then as soon as Clubhouse launches, Clubhouse launches a month before stereo, and all these other copycats I think what happens is really an engineer comes up with the auditory thing, and then it's like, okay, let's turn this into how we turn this new technology into social media, and
Mm-hmm.
who has the money, who's going to do it. And the problem is it's hard to compete in that world. And then I think they recognize that they have a user base, but they're running out of money and they're not able to compete at the same level. And then what they do is they start pulling these gimmicks of, okay, let's try to copy and beat Clubhouse. I think what
Yep.
Stereo should have done is maintain what we had, right? Of like an
Yep.
intimate conversation between strangers, right? Or between friends, right? Like you can build a community, right? It can be, but the podcasting aspect. The problem is some people wanted to hear their own voice, but didn't really want to do. They wanted the Clubhouse experience, but I'm like, you can't compete. So why become them? Why don't you hone in to what you were really good at? And some might argue that they've done that. You know what I mean? Because we're doing it right now. You still can do that. You can still take that recording, and then we have a podcast out there of it. And it also, it's their SEO is good. When I type in Turtle Enigmatic, like people find my stereo.
Yeah, totally. It's pretty solid in that they kept. I was in the same way. I'm like, don't change anything, don't add games, don't do all this, but at least they do give you the ability to kind of do what it was originally doing, and real conversations versus scrolling, clicking, hearting. Like that's insanity. You could say that there's like crazy people obviously everywhere, and you can hear them talk on stereo too. But it feels way better to, at least have a conversation instead of hopefully. My hope for this all is that it's turning social media a bit more healthy, But
I guess, yeah. I mean, I think the thing about Clubhouse is it's all about clout chasing, right? Because it's people's. It's supposed to be their real names. It's supposed to be people's real pictures. It's supposed to look like LinkedIn. Everyone has these long, like luxurious bios about how they're an influencer, about how they've turned $1 billion in sales, how they're a business guru, right? And so in that way, people are really addicted to this fame thing and this networking thing. And there's just more users, right? Like I'm not gonna lie, like you get on there and you're like, oh my God, I have this built-in community of comedians. I have friends when I come to LA will show me where the speakeasy comedy room is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we had that on stereo too, right? Like I know Susie, I know you, like we know all these people and these friends that we've built and these connections. But I think Clubhouse has this different like linkage of like this is like feels like it's the anonymous, right? And that feels like it's because it's a picture and it's supposed to be there's more visibility. But again, I think stereo should continue to hone into what their brand is and double down on that. And they're a little bit faltering. I get the sense that they recognize that the market has grown too big, right? That's just basic economics. There's a good idea, there's supply and demand, and then there's now more supply, there's more competitors, and their product isn't differentiated. They feel like their product was differentiated, and now they're all just like, oh, well, we just need to become the same. But there's so many of these apps, you know what I mean now?
Yeah,
like every
which
day
is
I see someone on a different one. Like Mona Lisa's on whatchamacallit. There's so many
I
of
don't
them.
even.
Like
I know Green Room and Stereo and Clubhouse. That's my like top three in terms of like what I've seen people using and like searching for it coming up in articles being talked about.
Well, Twitter has one now too.
Yeah, Twitter Spaces, which you can actually access via desktop. So I tried that out for a second, and I actually have like, a decent following on a small like platform there. So that's kind of cool that I could, utilize that.
That's awesome.
Which I was just casually building on my own.
That was on Spaces, yeah. I mean, that was the thing is like, I was on here.
Well, it was on Twitter.
And
Twitter, then Spaces opened up, so now I can actually like have full conversations with these people who would typically ignore, a message in your inbox in Twitter and Instagram. is mostly spam. Like, it's mostly robots. It's mostly click this link. So I think people are just tired of that.
Right. I mean, that's the benefit of these apps too. Is like, well, first, it's just a voice is so much more powerful. We know that, right? We've been on stereo. We understand the ability to connect with another human through a voice is going to be. Oh my God, these moving heads are annoying me.
I'm not looking. I'm not looking. I'm looking out a window right now. That's the beautiful. I can't. I think Emily, you can spell this or whatever. She like was famous for doing it on walks and stuff, and like I keep it in my
Right.
pocket. And I'm like, that's what I like about it. 'Cause I stare at enough screens.
No, it's true. But I used to be okay with it. I was okay with the static photo that was just speaking. And maybe it's just I'm not used to it. And honestly, I get why they're doing it. They're putting in as much things that become conversation pieces because so many people are bad at this, right? Like a lot of people, it's hard for them to start. So they talk about the real basic stuff, right? Which to be fair, we all kind of do. It's like that's natural to human connection. And so it's trying to simulate that in some way of like, oh, I like your hair, because that's how you would talk to a stranger, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people, when they were doing
What's
the roulette wheel, weren't very good, right? Like the conversations would end that could have sparked an interesting podcast if people were just better at connecting and not as scared, right?
which I think is cool too. Like I like the aspect like we're like creative content, whatever content creators, like we have that drive and like want to use it in that way. I think it would be cool if people can just use it to randomly like check in with another human. You know, like if they're stuck in a space where they're living alone or like whatever, you know, whatever the situation is. I'd hope that it would be like that would be the primary thing. But
Yeah, but we have used it for that. Like I feel like I've checked in on you. We've had other
yeah,
people that we've, built relationships here over
yeah,
it's essentially been a
for
year
sure.
I've been on stereo. Um, so I definitely had those times where I've checked in on people and made
Yeah.
real solid connections and all of that. Who's giving us hearts right now? It's Mona Lisa. Hey Mona Lisa, how are you? Mona Lisa, if you want to come up too, hang out. We're just chilling.
Yeah. We talked comedies during the COVIDs, the new stereo features, Zoom open mic. How do you feel about Zoom? I don't think I've asked you that yet. Zoom open mics. Like, did you actually dip your toes in there at all, or did you go straight to live open mics?
So I did a lot of. It's called this. It's basically like a Zoom mic, but it's a little bit cooler. I think it's called the Live Show app, and I've gotten in with like the main guy, Forrest. But it was started by a
Nice.
comedian, and it's basically you should download it, and you can do. They basically
Absolutely.
run. It's called a Live Show app, and you can basically they have comedy shows all the time, and you can just log on and do it, and kind of like it's it's a step above of doing like a clubhouse or a stereo comedy show because it's video, so it's more like Zoom. Uh,
Yeah.
you can see how many people are laughing,
Nice.
and I did a lot of those. I try to get in a lot of those. I try to like my goal is to get on a mic every single night. So like last night I did 2 mics,
Beautiful.
uh, and um, uh, I have a show tomorrow. I need to get on Clubhouse to promote it. Because I have a club. I have a comedy room club. I think that's one thing that Clubhouse did that stereo is that they gave people the ability to have more real estate, right? In that you have more entrepreneurial ability because you can call it your room. You can create your room. You can really be a showrunner of your own radio show with a title that stays there
Oh,
and people follow it. And
sorry, I lost you for
that
a second there.
oh, what was the last thing you heard me say? Can you hear me now? Hello?
And this is stereo telling to shush. Sorry for that. That was just a connectivity issue. Stereo's telling us we've talked long enough. I get it.
No, it
Get it.
it it honestly could be that I was saying the word too much because that makes I used to not believe that, but now after spending more time and understanding, like it just makes sense, right? Like they just create disruption issues to your connectivity, and if you're talking the inside baseball that is
What up, fellas? What up, fellas? How y'all doing today, bro?
what's up?
Same shit, different toilet seat. Which one you talking about? Because I see you talking about thanks for talking Tuesday comedy during COVID.
What'd you say?
I said I was reading your title, and then I was listening to what you was talking about, how the stereo app be cutting motherfuckers off and swiping left on people and all that kind of crazy shit, especially when you
Oh
start
yeah.
speaking on real topics.
Well, it's definitely if you talk about their competitors, if you're talking about social media, like if you say Clubhouse and stuff, they start making things go crazy. Because it just makes sense from a business standpoint. They don't want you to encourage people to use other apps. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, but that's why I'm on another
Yes,
app now.
partially.
Listen, I'm on another app now, and
Simulcast.
I'm getting views. I'm talking about views.
But that's
Oh,
the
And
thing we were
nice.
I
talking about the health of that, and Instagram actually gave you the feature to hide the amount of hearts and likes and views on people's posts, which I think is a positive step. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
yeah, nah, the other app that I'm on, yo, like I go live and I get to see, and like people get to tune in, and I'm trying to get some cats from over that off of this app. Let's go over that app and do the same thing that we doing over here, but we
Right.
actually get to see each other, like
Right. That's why I
instead of
think that
seeing a
the
fucking
AI
avatar,
lowers the
instead
show
of
when you
some
say
bullshit.
those words and stuff. Yeah. What's the other app?
Yeah, it's called like.
Oh, like it's just basically like
yeah, I haven't
stereo.
heard of that one.
There's
Nah,
new
it's
ones
way
popping
better.
up every day.
It's
They're
way
all
better than stereo. I ain't
You
even gonna
can't
much
say it's
cap.
way better. They're all similar.
No, listen. Nah. Joey, listen,
It's
Joey
okay. We're
Journal.
already suppressed. We're already suppressing
Listen,
it.
Joey Journal. When I say this joint is way better than stereo. See, stereo let y'all say whatever on some foreground basis, but this one you can't fuck up at all. They won't even let you see a bitch smoking on this bitch.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I think Clubhouse was kind of like that in terms of when they started, they were like, "Hey, be nice. We're trying to create a nice digital civilization here." And then I
And they're
feel like it
still
kind
like
of
that. They're
opened up.
still like
Yeah,
that, I feel like. Because they
yeah. There's
have
like good moderation.
because the whole
Listen,
thing
because
is
I did a
about
show.
trying to
Hey,
be hold on one second, bad news. It's all about like trying to become a moderator, you know what I mean? And being a moderator is the goal, and that is the built-in system that they've created, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
so because of that, what were you saying, bad news?
But see, here's the thing though about that in particular app. And I just found this app out about like a day and a half ago, maybe 2 days. I was on Facebook and then I was on YouTube and like I scroll up and down and see the shits, bullshits, and shenanigans. And when the girl was talking about the app, I downloaded it right then and there. And I'm talking about I'm making money off this bitch, and I just started this bitch 2 days ago.
That's
I already
awesome.
made $700 in 2 days off of my live.
Do you work
Yeah.
for this app, sir? Are you? No, I'm just kidding.
No, I'm
Uh,
dead at no. I don't work for this app. Blood.
I'm just
Listen,
kidding. I'm
listen,
just
listen.
kidding. I'm just kidding.
He's hustling
People
though.
think
I,
I
I
work for
give it
this app.
I give him
For
respect. Yeah. I do that too. So
No,
I'm a comedian. Terry, where are you located? Are you located in LA?
no. I live in South Florida where it's hot as hell.
Oh, nice.
Ooh.
Well, if you're in LA, hit me up. I'm a comedian. I have some shows going all the time. I'm pretty famous on TikTok. I'm turtle enigmatic on everything. This is Joey
Oh,
Journal.
so you a TikToker?
Yeah, I'm a TikToker. I'm a
Ah,
stereoer. I'm a clubhouser,
Uh,
we're a
uh,
peopler.
uh,
and we're
you're a
people.
people of
We're
peopler. You're
yeah.
Yeah,
humans.
we're all using the YouTubes and
No.
the
Okay, hold on,
faces and the
hold
grams,
on. This is what's going to
but
qualify
in
you as
terms
being.
of what's
Hold
your
on,
main platform?
hold on. This is what's going to qualify you as being human or not. Did you take the COVID vaccine?
I did take the COVID vaccine.
You're
I
not
was
considered a
required
human.
to for
You're
my
not.
job.
You're not
That's
considered a
fair,
human
sir.
anymore.
Yeah. I'm probably a
Mm-hmm.
cyborg. I think Joey's
Yeah,
a
I was
cyborg
just
too.
gonna say that. You read my
No,
mind.
because
I was just about
no,
to say I'm a cyborg.
if you actually took the if you look at the COVID situation, they were saying that the ingredients in COVID no longer qualifies you as being human. Like I'm like, what the fuck? Like, are
Yeah.
you
Oh,
kidding
there's
me?
so
No,
much.
you're right. The
Yeah.
World Health
Yeah.
Organization came out and said that. And I went to the party and Joey was there and we did like this cyborg party where we were like, we're no longer human. But it's pretty exciting because
Yeah.
like we now can like there's really I think humans are kind of antiquated because if you don't have the vaccine, like after you take the vaccine you can fuck for hours and hours on
Mm-hmm.
end. It's basically like being like Sting. You know Sting, you know how he like trained his body to do like tantric sex? When you
So
take the
Sting got
vaccine,
stung. So
yeah,
Sting got
Sting
stung.
got super stoned, exactly. And it helps you to like walk on walls, all of that stuff. And I'm like,
and then
oh
just
shit, bad news. Did you just cough? You just cough? Oh no.
No, I
Oh
smoke.
god, he's dying.
Listen, I smoke weed. I smoke
Oh,
weed,
no.
bro. I'm 41. I smoke weed, homie. Listen, I've been smoking weed since I was 12. So
I get you.
yeah.
Do you
Got you.
take? You gotta take those month breaks every now and then. I'm learning that. But
No, I'm actually at home smoking like 2 different blunts right now.
so you're primarily plant. We are primarily
I'm
cyborg. You're
I'm a
primarily
plant. I'm a plant. I'm literally a plant.
Beautiful.
I listen, I grow leaves, I shit residue.
Turtles into plants. Turtle
I
can
love
school you on some plant knowledge. I'm
Yeah,
getting
there
into
was
them.
a
I like
time
them.
when I had a lot of plants. Joey used to date a chick who was really into plants. She would fuck them.
Yeah.
She was a
Yeah,
vegan.
she was great.
I'm
She
a
was
vegan,
very
yeah.
healthy as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hey,
Cool.
I ain't even gonna lie though, but it's like I've noticed this on this app though. A lot of the so-called creators, and sometimes I can be guilty of this, but I'm really not at most. Like they be having straight attitudes. Like you'll go on a show to listen to what they gotta say, and then if you chime in and it's something that they don't like, they'll get snappy as fuck. And
Yeah, that's kind
that's
of fun to
the
play with. I feel like as
that's
long as you
but
don't
that's
People are
up your
trolling you.
levels. Yeah,
no,
yeah.
but see,
That's
that's the
just
thing though. That's why I like the other app
both.
though, because I've been, like I said, I only do that app around like 12:30 at night, between 12:30 to 2:30 in the morning, and I'm talking about I'm speaking to people from all over the fucking world. I'm talking about Saudi Arabia. I'm talking about
Nice accent.
Russia. Like really, people
Arabia.
It sounds like a
like
good breeding
people
ground
like
for terrorism.
no, not
I'm just
really,
joking with you. I
but
do joke, buddy.
I'm just
No,
laughing
I
at
hear you.
terrorism casually.
I mean,
hey,
it's a
what
funny
what
thing, right? Like it's back in fashion, right?
what happened to the terrorist that put on the bomb?
What happened to him? He became da bomb.
No, he
Yeah.
listen. He blew up. He blew up literally. Kaboom.
That's the same thing. Da bomb and kaboom
Similar.
are the same punchline.
Shout
No,
out to
but
Hot Ones, to bomb hot sauce.
yeah,
I ain't
they're
gonna
our
lie,
main
that's some good ass
sponsor
hot sauce.
here.
I've had some of that. I had some of that, the bomb hot sauce. That shit is hot
Sorry,
as
that's
fuck.
I do that in conversations. I just distract. Okay.
Anyway, thank you guys for coming to the Thanks for Talking Tuesday comedy during COVID. #comedy, #open talk, #news. We're here with Bad News Bear. He's a new friend.
Hello there.
And we're here with Joey Journal. And we really like to thank our
Yes,
sponsor, dabombhotsauce.com. You can
Mm-hmm.
go to Dabomb Hot Sauce. You can find it on my website, turtleenigmatic.com. You can
Or
find
you
Bad
can
News
hear
Bear.
me up on Sex Bomb.
And you can find Bad News Bear on his OnlyFans or his Sex da Bomb, you know?
Yes,
That's the thing
yes,
about
because
stereo.
listen.
Yeah.
I wear leopard skin thongs and high heels, ladies. Just come in and you'll see the shits and shenanigans.
See, that's why I was like,
Kinky
I'm gonna
leopard
follow
shit.
everyone.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna follow everyone, and then I started seeing that shit pop up, and then I was like, okay, I can't. put my brain through this. I need to maintain
Listen,
a little bit.
nah, listen, a bitch. If you ever see me in a my big black fat
Nope.
ass
Nope.
and a leopard skin thong with my balls hanging the fuck out and high heel boots, I give y'all permission to shoot me. Take me out the pasture.
All right,
No,
yeah. Thanks,
I'm gonna
Turtle.
support you no matter what. You know, if that's your thing, that's awesome. Because some ladies are really into that. You're gonna find a woman or a partner or a person who's gonna be into that. So like, we're not gonna kink shame you here. That's for you, buddy. You know.
Oh
We don't
no,
kink
no,
shame.
I ain't it. Listen. I had a pair of rainbow colored thongs with the butt cheeks hanging out, cut out, and
I feel
yeah,
that. I feel that vibe for you. I feel like that is a vibe that you would have.
that wasn't a pretty sight.
Oh
I
well,
got
at least you
I almost
tried
got
it. You know, we go through
almost got
trends.
I almost got
And like
arrested for bending over.
that's a South Florida thing, though. You know, they don't like the bending and the snapping there.
Yeah, they really don't.
But I'm gonna follow you on the like app. I'll follow you on here, and I don't even know how to do it anymore. I haven't been on here in so long. There you go.
You have to
Bad
view
News
full
Bear.
profile, I think, and it's
Oh yeah. The more interact, and now
there's
he's
so
waving
many
at
issues.
me.
Ugh, creepy.
You only have 190 followers. I feel like I
Yeah.
got all my followers from this time when this app was all like, we need you to join this app, Bad News Bear.
Oh no, listen, I was already on this app. I had like lost my other account because somebody stole my phone. So I had to remake another account. I had like 7,000 followers.
That's awesome. I'm not judging you for your followers. I'm just making a point about it's interesting the time periods by which people accumulated followers. Like Joey and I came in a time when everyone was trying to follow each other because it was about how many followers you got could mean like whether or not you got verified and get money. And that was when a lot of people were. And then after they ended that contest, no one followed people don't follow each other anymore. And so it's
because like
interesting.
I got the subscribe thing on under mine, the little purple sign and everything, and then it was like, what's the shit for? Like, ain't nobody subscribing.
Well, there are
I
people.
think
If you work on a show and you build a fan base, like people will subscribe. Like if you really hone in and you really work to this. I mean, that's the thing about picking the apps, right? Because a lot of people jump on a lot of apps, but if you really are trying to like grow your base, you need to figure out where you want to hang.
But
So
see,
if it's the like app,
here's my thing.
Hold on. So if it's the like app or if it's this app, like good business practices, right? Like be on other apps, but like you really want to just you build that show and treat it like a show and come on with an outline and a plan and talk about news or talk about if you're doing like debate or if you're doing conspiracy theories, just have it outlined and figuring it out and hone your audience. You will get subscribers.
Hold on. If you go down my timeline on this app, you'll see where I get views and I get comments and I get, because I speak about everything from conspiracy theories. I've been on top of that. Conspiracy theories.
But that's like a.
You don't want to talk about everything either. Really, I do the same thing, but actual theory, like you actually want to really niche down and have like a really specific theory because you don't want to alienate. Like that's what they say, and I do TikTok. Like I've succeeded.
No,
on
I don't
TikTok
alienate.
I do comedy. No, but I'm not saying anything about you. I'm saying general practices of how you actually grow. What you want to do is, if it's conspiracy theories, it's conspiracy theories, and you're always talking about it. If you're talking about the news and you have a specific comedic slant,
No. See, that's the thing. That's the thing. Hear me out.
Yeah,
and it sounds like because y'all sound a little way younger than me. Now, see, your demographics versus my demographics are two different type of demographics.
You don't know anything about us. See, that's also.
Hold on, listen. You automatically just assuming. Okay, when I speak on my show, right? When I ever do my show,
assuming. Yeah.
The first thing that I do on my show, we start off with comedy. We start off with straight comedy, straight shenanigans, shits and shenanigans.
That's beautiful.
But then what I do is I switch the topic every so often and get people's opinions.
Yeah, that's
And
fun
then
to
when
do.
people
What's
start,
up, Gemini King?
what's
What's
good,
goody
mama?
though?
She already know.
Greetings,
Listen,
kings.
listen. Queen
Hey,
Okay,
King.
19
King's
and
plural. I just want to
listen,
make sure that was plural. Thank you.
listen. Queen 19 and Lola Street will tell you. Lola Street is my actual wife.
That's
That's my
hot.
actual wife.
That's a hot name. I want to touch her.
Congratulations.
And then Kiera is my stereo host when I'm on stereo. And they'll tell you the topics that I speak about, bro. I have people in that motherfucking room. Like we will have people in the room.
But the cool
Like I
thing,
have this.
I think that's something that it's a little dangerous though. Is just looking at numbers matter, obviously, in data and like building a fan base. But I
Mhm.
think the fun part is like when you're just creating the content, having the discussions you're having, and then you can craft it and hone it into whatever lanes you want. But just not like just paying attention to the art and making the art. Like
Right.
Turtle's got crazy, like he's got to do his art. He's got to do comedy because it's like almost therapy. I feel right. Like you're just you
Right.
have these
Comedy is
experiences
therapy.
lived.
But I'm
Yeah.
saying what I'm saying, and I'm not saying anything about you. I don't know you. I just followed you. But what I'm
Same.
saying is, what I would do to actually be better, which I don't do because it's not what I want to do, but if I was actually following the logic, is that you hone down into a very specific thesis, right? And it sounds like that's what you're doing, which is great. You know what I mean? And you're always, so you start your show and you talk about your comedy and you go crazy and then you hone into something more serious once you kind of have people's attention, and you always do that. So your co-hosts and the people that are expecting you, but also, you know, you want to be somewhere where you have the ability to grow really big. So like a big base, like Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, what have you, Clubhouse here, like, and you really like gravitate and you work hard, but people will subscribe. Like, it doesn't even matter if you're good enough. If you bring that magic, you can bring it to whatever app, whatever. You can think of the
Exactly. That's what
app
I
as a
do.
launching
Listen.
pad. Yeah.
That's
And
what I
I'm not
do.
attacking you. I agree. That makes sense.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's annoying to say like your brand and all that, but your personality is like your brand. That's like what
My
brings people to
personality is my
actually.
listen, that's what it is. My personality is
Yeah,
my brand.
yeah,
I'm often
yeah.
I'm
People like you. Yeah,
yeah, because I what I do is I speak, I'm blunt. I'm just straight blunt. I don't give a fuck. I have no
that's
filter.
because you're high. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I'll be
You
doing that
said
shit
you
sober.
said it.
That's the
I know, but
part
you said the
that
weed word. I made a dumb joke. I apologize.
okay, see, what happens is when people come and tune into my shows, and you can even ask the girls that's on here, what I do is I touch subjects that people they want to touch them, they want to say something about them, but they are scared to say something about them because they think they're going to be what they
Give
call
me a
dogmed.
So give me an example of a recent like topic that you did on
Okay,
your show.
we were speaking about COVID-19 and the vaccines for those that are vaccinated and those that are unvaccinated, and what we spoke about. Well,
What do you mean
I
the vaccines for those that are unvaccinated? What do you mean by that?
for
You mean
those
just
that are
I guess that'd be the
the
pill. That'd
politics
be
of
the pill.
unvaccinated versus
yeah
vaccinated?
for those that are vaccinated and versus those that are not vaccinated, and how would we as a society come together and put that stigma down instead of everybody when somebody speaks about it, oh well the vaccine is not good or the vaccine is good.
Yeah,
How
just
can we
generalized statements. Yeah.
yes
I
like
mean,
how
I
can we
think
not generalize the statement because again as we all know the COVID vaccine just came out a year ago.
We don't all know that, but yes,
So it's like,
I'm
so.
ignorant.
What you're talking about is not really about stigma. We're talking about we're still in a global pandemic and like it's conspiracy theory. So what you're saying is like you like to do conspiracy, like radical right
no,
wing,
not
like
radical
shock
right
jock
wing.
stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
more
that's what
shock
Did you
that
say
jock.
is.
white wing? I didn't know there was a white wing.
Yeah, there's a white wing. There's a couple of white wings. I got a black wing.
Sometimes the right wing is white, sometimes it's black, sometimes it coalesces because they understand that attention and yeah, I mean, I don't do that stuff because that stuff is stupid. But like, if that's your brand, you can get attention that way. Alex Jones gets attention, right? So
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
And actually,
when I first joined this thing, it was like the headlines were clearly like, "Oh, why are X people this way?" Like, there's, that gets a little tiresome, I think, for people that are trying to have actual conversations.
now check me out. You want to know the craziest thing? Now look at the numbers of your people that are listening right now, right?
No.
You got 16. Listen, you got 16 people. You got Young Type, you got Kenya, you got Ratchet. Shout out to Jessica. Shout out to Chris, aka Suck Your Mom. Now listen. Now, if any one of them chime in, what I do is when somebody comes onto my show, I shout their name out from the get-go. I don't ignore people on my show. I let people come in on the show and just be themselves. That's the thing. I'm not trying to be no professional political analyst, no professional conspiracy theorist, none of that. I'm just a human being just like the rest of you motherfuckers.
So you're a moderator is what you're saying. You're good at cultivating the space and less about like having a very strict like topic. That's great, but that's not like a radio host. That's like a professional moderator on these apps, which is really what we're moving towards. That's beautiful.
But see, here, I'm not a professional moderator. I'm just a person that is on this app.
Though, right? So like if you're actually trying to create a podcast, because no one's going to want to listen to that when it's non-live. So when they go back and listen to which is also how you grow on this app, right? They accumulate how you listen to your non-live. Then no one cares about when you talk to, I mean, unless it dives into like a really great conversation. But if your whole show is just, hey, who do we have here? Hey, Kenya, I love you, Kenya. Kenya's my girl. Hey, Ratchet, I love you, Ratchet. Ratchet's my girl. Young Type, that's my boy. Right? Like, that's not interesting to listen to after the fact. It's fun while you're doing it.
No. See, you're right? Turtle Eggmatic. What you're doing is what you're trying to objectively say is that when I interact with the listeners, that's the whole key to this app. You have to interact with your listeners.
I've been doing for sure, but it does like you got conversation and you have exactly.
Before social media was really taking off, I was already doing this. I'm up there in my age. You feel what I'm saying?
Me too.
Before social media and all the little TikTokers, all the little YouTubers and stuff like that, I used to have my own personal podcast show that I used to do in New Jersey. I stopped doing it after my mother passed away.
We're not trying to other you. We're talking about generalized tips about what people say and then talking about how I don't follow them. Just like it sounds like sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. Like it sounds like what you're describing is great moderation. I've seen people do that on this app and on other apps, do that wonderfully. That's beautiful. You're creating space. It sounds like sometimes you have some content tied to the current fears around the pandemic and about conspiracy theories, and that is its own art form. I don't really subscribe to it, but it's beautiful. You're making art and you're out there.
Check this out.
You're making your content. I'm not saying
no.
You're doing
it's not
wrong,
just about. I don't
just
do content about that. That's what you're missing. That's where you're being misinformed.
I mean, that's the only example
I don't just do content about that.
You said you did. So what other type of content do you do?
I say content by everything. We talk about everything, whether it be sports, whether it be music, whether it be just lifestyle, it's all types of things.
What's interesting is like I think at one point this app gave you like some hashtags, like so you talk about comedy, open talk, and news if you go to your profile, which means that is like the primary thing. So it kind of actually like I guess comedy has been your biggest hashtag.
Yeah, so basically it's not really comedy. Mine is open talk, good vibes.
Hey, always. Hold on 1 second, bad news. This is Daryl. This comic's life is in the building.
This fucking comic.
Famous podcast. This comic's life. He is a regular up here in the stereo space. And we're talking to Bad News Bear.
Me and Daryl Williams have done shows before. Me and Daryl Williams. Yeah, Daryl knows.
Yeah.
There's no holds bars on my show. We have a segment on my show called Raunchy Radio where we just speak raunchiness and we just talk a bunch of shit.
Yeah,
I'm
Daryl's a
in.
good buddy of mine. No,
I
and
do like
again,
to talk
bad
shit.
news. I don't know
Yeah,
anything
and
about
raunchy
your
shit.
content. We're just saying that generally, like, to succeed in whatever you're doing, they usually say you need a really, really specific thesis, right? Like, I talk about this and you niche down. But you don't have to follow that. That's all I was saying. And I don't know anything about your stuff. And I also don't follow that myself because I just do whatever the fuck I want to do. Because that's what I've been doing. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's how
Yeah.
I am. I don't just follow what the decor is supposed to be about. I don't follow the norm. Because if you follow the norm, you're going to be like
Decorum.
everybody the fuck else. You're going to be like everybody the fuck else. I'm not
What
like
do you mean
everybody else.
decor? You mean like
So
the
what?
things around the house? Like,
No, decor.
I
What I mean
definitely
by
shit in the toilet, so I'm following some norms. But yeah, I get what you mean.
Oh,
I have some
brag.
cool
Like if-
decor.
listen, if I do a show, right? Like say if I decide to do a show, and you might hear me say a key word or a key phrase, and then I'll be like, well, listen, before we get back into the subject, I'm gonna switch the topic for a second, and now I'll switch the topic, and it'll be something so random that don't even go with the original show, that it throws the show off, but it gets more people in, and then I go back to the original topic. Pop your bubble.
Gotcha.
You got a bubble, homie.
That's your
got a bubble.
girl Ratchet. Let's play Ratchet.
Yeah.
Blessings and love to everyone. I just jumping in, not 100% sure if I'm right in what I'm saying, but for me personally, whatever the replay effect is pointless to me, because I'm never going to listen to a show that was previously played. I only come on here to listen to the live talk. So if the live talk is popping, that's where I'm going to be. I don't give a crap if it's lit, and I'm not going to listen to it the next day. That's not happening. But, yeah. I don't know. I ain't got no one who really follows me, so what do I know?
Well, you got to follow her now, Ratchet.
Yeah, Ratchet. That's a good
gotta follow her
perspective.
now.
You know what I mean? Because here's the thing: is some people are trying to do it where it's all about that live show. Some people are trying to use they're like, I don't
Hey,
care.
Playboy, what's
Siri
poppin',
doesn't
homie?
Bad news, hold on 1 second. It's like I don't have enough. It's like there's not enough people on here for me to really care, but I like the audio formatting that it records the show for me. Like there's a lot of different ways that it can be used, and but yeah, it's fun to make it interactive. That's the advantage of this app. And if you're good at that, and bad news is he's a fucking dealer up in these streets. He's a player up in this stereo app. He's a celebrity, and he's helping to create space, and that's beautiful. Daryl, what's happening on this Monday with you, buddy?
Oh, just chilling. Wait, I thought it was Tuesday.
Exactly. What day you talking, homie?
What? It's Tuesday? That's crazy. Yeah.
You know,
I took a
Taco
little bit too much
Tuesday,
masculine.
2 for Tuesday. We got a lot of different things going on today.
Wet, rainy Tuesday. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Never
just
eat wet
chilling.
pussy on a rainy Tuesday. Newport.
There's a lot of cool things coming out. Oh man, the new Dave Chappelle special just came out.
Yeah,
Oh, I
that shit
gotta
was funny
watch
as hell,
that.
bro. I went to a live taping of it. That shit was
Oh,
funny.
nice. That's awesome.
I haven't checked it out yet, but that's on my to-do list today for sure.
Hey, you know what another thing should be on your to-do list? Dave, Daryl. Yo, you need to go check this movie out called it's on Netflix. My girl know the name of it. She the one that put me up on it. It's about a game show. And there's a Facebook, I think he's Facebook or he's on TikTok.
Squid Game?
The doctor.
Squid Game.
Yeah, the Squid Games. The doctor that's on YouTube, TikTok, he's actually playing in the show. And I watched it. I'm like, oh, it's pretty good. I'm not going to give no spoilers
super violent,
out,
pretty fun.
Yeah, I'm not going to give no spoilers out. Just know that shit is off the chain.
Oh, thanks, guys. I'll follow you back in a moment. I'm just literally cleaning my floors. I'm one of these weird people that gets on my hands and knees and does it. God knows why. Oh, I heard you're talking about new programs. Please tell me you lot have seen Squid Game. If you haven't, please go and watch it. And I actually want to set up a talk with people to talk about Squid Game, because that's real life. I don't care what no one says to me. They're showing us what's really happening in these rich places.
So she's not lying. A lot of the shows that we watch do show what's really happening behind the scenes, but no one actually speaks about it.
No,
Yeah,
that's
there's
true.
the main
I live in a
storyline,
really
and then
rich
there's the
place.
societal.
Yeah, I live in a rich place, and we kill people because there's too many people, and to like balance out the ecosystem, and we just don't tell people about it.
Oh wow!
It's like they're Thanos now. Rich people are
Right.
Thanos.
That's
and
actually
they're like doing it.
that's yeah. And we're
Shout
They're
out
crypto.
doing
to
it
We use
for the good of
crypto. That's
humanity.
shout out to those that like to kill people. Like to all my serial killers out there. Shout out to y'all. It's because of y'all. Y'all make my nuts moist.
The
I'm
pandemic was
happy to
probably
make your
horrible
nuts
for serial
moist.
killers.
Say it again.
The pandemic was probably horrible for serial killers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was hard for my
It took a lot of
grandmother, for
business.
sure.
It took a lot of business away from us.
I
Right.
wonder if there was a serial killer that like got COVID because of somebody murdered. So there's like that revenge after the murder.
Yeah, like who really got who? Yeah.
I want that to
That would be really like fucked up, but
Karma.
funny at the same time.
Nah, murder's never funny.
It's called poetic justice.
But I am a serial killer. You know what I mean? I kill Fruit Loops. I kill Frosted Flakes.
You use that word incorrectly, sir. No.
Raisin Bran. Raisin Bran.
I don't
Hey
think you know
Daryl,
what that means.
I have a show tomorrow. If you want to come.
Oh shit!
What's the name of the show? I might come over there and come stop by and say what's up.
It's in LA. It's at the Comedy Chateau. It's
Oh,
it's
nice.
at,
I'm aware of it.
7 p.m. in North Hollywood.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What are you
Yeah,
gonna
that
be?
means I have to book my flight tonight then.
Yeah.
How much
You wanna
time are you
book your-
Is there a streaming aspect to it, or is it just a live?
I'm gonna try to record it. But I don't know that it'll be live, but yeah, bad news. If
It's
you want to get on a plane for my 5-minute set, that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
should
no,
definitely film it.
Yeah,
Definitely
like I come to support. Listen, I support anybody. I don't give a damn. I have nothing else to do in life. You know what I mean? We're all getting ready to die, so I might as well waste the money that I earned, just flying out and doing shits and shenanigans.
Ryan McMichael here in the audience. I haven't seen that name in a long time. Hope you're doing well,
Michael.
buddy. Good to
Hello
see
there,
you.
Michael. Michael, I am Kit. Are you ready to drive?
But yeah, Daryl,
Are those shows bringer shows, Turtle?
BYOBs?
So they had no requirement for me to bring, but they highly suggest. But I already have I already have the people that I need. But it's free. The show is free if you just call my name at the door.
Yeah.
But by bringer, you mean like you gotta get 2 people in the audience and they'll let you up type thing, Daryl?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
They highly suggest that they want you to, which I get makes sense. And some people are like, I won't ever do a bringer show, right? And Daryl, you won't ever do a bringer show, right?
I mean, I've done them in the past and they're horrible, so I try to avoid them. But
yeah, you're at a level now where you don't have to. You're seasoned.
Right.
I feel like I don't have to mostly bring. I mean, most people when I get on shows, they're not saying like you need to have 3 people or I'm not going to put you up. But sometimes
when I do shows, I don't have that problem. I don't know why.
Well, I think LA is definitely synonymous with a lot of these types of things because there's so many shows out there.
Comedians, yeah.
Because like I did a show over in Calabasas, California, and I didn't have that problem.
Well, that's what I'm saying because Calabasas is like that's probably the only club that was going on that night.
Right, it's out in the middle of nowhere, so it's like you only go there if you're it's the suburbs. It's funny because Calabasas, people think Calabasas is somewhere like regal. Calabasas used to be seen as just like this really suburban, boring place, and then because the Kardashians were there, people are like now like, oh yeah, I know Calabasas because they've heard about it because it's in like the ethers. You know what I mean?
I feel you. No, but
or
I
like,
was invited there. I was invited there. They heard my show, and they called me in and was like, "Look, we want you to do a show out here." I got paid $40,000.
What comedy
What
club
type
were
of
you
show?
at?
What type of show was this?
It was just a comedy. It was just like an open comedy.
Do
Like
you know
I
the
had
name
opened up
of
for.
the? Do you know the name of it?
It's somewhere in my fucking in my RVs.
Was that a gigolo fee as well, or that seems like there's a combination there, wasn't there?
No.
You said you got-
Because I opened up for not Cat Williams, Kevin Hart.
It was probably a
that'll do it.
Calabasas comedy, right?
Yeah, I had
Calabasas
opened up for.
Haha.
Listen,
I
I
think
opened
that's
up
the
for
only
Kevin
comedy
Hart.
club
That's all I remember. That I opened up for Kevin Hart. I got paid $40,000, and I left. I did my set, and I hauled ass and went home.
That's
40
crazy.
grand for-
It's crazy
40
that you went from
grand for one
opening
set?
for Kevin Hart and now you're, on Scaria with your 190 followers. That's like a crazy trajectory,
But see, here's the thing. I'm not doing it I'm just doing it just to be doing this. I don't really do this. I do music. I make beats for a living.
Do you want to play us some of your beats?
Right now, I can't because I'm actually cleaning up.
Can you just give me?
How much do
I'll
you
just
sell your
songs.
beats?
Yes, I do sell my
How much
beats.
are your beats for? If I want to buy a beat, how much?
The average beat that I would sell probably for like $1,000.
And I get all of the royalties. I have a movie coming out soon.
No. You don't have all the royalties. See, that's the key trick to this one. You don't have all the royalties. I make the royalties off the back end. Yeah, you make your front money up, but at the end, I'm still going to get paid.
So I only negotiate for a flat fee. So I want everything because I need it.
If you want everything, that's going to cost you at least $20,000.
Okay, well I don't have that, but if I do have 1,000, I do have a movie. If you have a good beat, but it sounds like that's not something you're willing to do. Is that right? If I send you like a scene for my movie.
If you send me the scene, I'll do the score for it, but I need to get paid up front.
Yeah, I mean that's usually how it works to buy all of the royalties straight, right? I would pay you up front, free. But I don't have 20,000. But if you have the right song, I mean I need to hear the song, but once you hear it,
you just need to open up for half of Kevin Hart, and you got that covered.
No
yeah,
shit,
exactly.
Yeah.
For a couple hours, listen, for like a 30-minute set, I've done.
How's
sorry, the last 10 years.
Bad.
Last 10 years.
What's your? You said like Florida. How's the comedy scene going there? Are you like getting the shows again? Like now?
Oh no, I don't. I stopped. I literally stopped doing comedy down here. I've stopped because I got children now. I got my girl.
After opening for Kevin Hart, I get that.
Yeah, this is a long time ago.
You literally
I've done this.
You opened for Kevin Hart and then you quit.
Listen, this is 10 years ago.
Cold turkey.
Listen, this is like 10 years ago. You feel what I'm saying?
Are you blaming your children for your? No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Well, that sounds. Wait, but if it
no,
was
if
like
you got
10
children,
years
listen,
ago,
if you
were
got
probably getting paid more than Kevin Hart.
No, Kevin Hart was getting paid 10 years ago. He was getting paid.
Wait, so you got paid $40,000 to open in a comedy club in Calabasas?
It wasn't just the opening of the comedy club. It wasn't just opening up for Kevin Hart. I actually had to do some music for it. I had to do other little things, but everything came up to $40,000 after taxes and everything, and fees were done.
Wow, that must have been a big establishment that they had enough seats to like pay just the opener $40,000. That's crazy.
I wonder what the ticket price was for Kevin Hart. Like,
yeah, how much?
Like it was like
I think
all the tickets was going between like the cheapest one was like $50. That's the cheapest, and you were sitting in the normal. You were sitting in the nosebleed section.
That's not that out there, yeah.
How big was the venue? Do you think? Like, what do you think? Like
this was a while ago. It had to be at least a good 300 people can fit in this place.
Wow.
Okay.
Can you do it under the moniker The Bad News Bears? Was that like what was the name that you were opening under?
Frost
opening for Kevin Hart. Frost.
Yeah, this was
like
a while ago.
That's awesome.
So when did you rebrand from because I've done marketing and all that stuff, and I know about how the rebranding thing goes. What made you go from Frost to Bad News and like that kind of How'd that play out?
time span. Well, what came up with the name Bad News Bear is everybody said I was always bad news as a child. So that name always was there. I just never used it.
That's awesome. I mean, I don't disbelieve you. I do comedy under Turtle Enigmatic, and people think that's crazy. So I get Frost. I'm gonna look it up though.
But the
Kevin
bad news
being
came in
opened by
because when I
Frost.
started really doing music, a lot of people used to like the way that I rhymed. So they was like, dog, I like the way you flow. It's like it's good and it's bad at the same time. So I just stuck with the Bad News Bear.
Daryl, why didn't you
Sweet.
ever book Frost for your podcast? You know, you need to interview. Like he's open for Kevin Hart as Frost.
Damn. I wish he was local. I would have had him. I try to do my podcast not over some Zoom or whatever. I try to do it in person.
See, I like when you do podcasts in person versus video.
Right, I'm the same way.
Daryl has a podcast set up. Like he has his own podcast studio in Long Beach. It's pretty cool. I've been there.
Shout out to Long Beach.
Yeah,
Shout out to King Crooked and his brothers.
He's got a hilarious necklace related video on his YouTube. Check that out.
Turtle, you should come on the Seinfeld podcast. That'd be dope.
Yeah, I'm down. That's different than This Comic's Life? Are you doing This Comic's Life right now, or is that over?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do it all. Like, there's 3 podcasts that I'm doing like all at the same time.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to start up Headline to Movie again, but my original co-host is sometimes hard to find.
Whatever pod you want to do is fine with me. You can be a guest on any of them, all 3 of them if you want.
Yeah,
I don't mind.
I'll do all 3 of them. Tell me when.
I would love. I never checked out Seinfeld like growing up, but I like popped into episodes here and there, and I've heard like Mark Norman and Joe List, the Tuesdays podcast they have. They're kind of doing a Seinfeld-y thing, so I think I miss a lot of references.
Nah, what you gotta do is just go back and watch the older episodes. Go back and watch the older episodes.
No, I can't go back in time.
Daryl,
it just came out on Netflix, so it's very available now.
Daryl, I was just telling Joey that I thought that like someone like Seinfeld who's just doing observational comedy wouldn't be able to make it today. Like it'd be very hard, right? Because everything is about identity politics and living your trauma. And like when you see people doing observational comedy, people don't laugh. It's really hard unless it's tied into their own like personal brand thing. And like, what do you think? Like, how would you be able to be a Seinfeld today? I think people have too much there's just too much content and too saturated with jokes for anything like that for someone to break through unless they they reinvented the game somehow, right?
I feel like there is still room. I feel like guys like Dimitri Martin, they're kind of like maybe like kind of a new breed of it. Maybe early Zach Galifianakis kind of was like that too, where he could do silly observation, but he wasn't really like, you didn't know his political beliefs, you didn't know his like where his sexual proclivity. But I don't know, even like Seinfeld in his last special tried to kind of pivot. He started talking about like his wife and his kids, and you'd be like, man, that's never what you would have done 20 years ago.
Right. And he was like, now I talk about now I don't hang out with people that don't have kids. And it was all about telling more of like a story through jokes,
right,
type of thing.
But I will say it's a lot of people probably didn't like it. They were probably like, get back to the airplane shit.
Right. Because they want the old stuff. But like if you're
play the classics
today, right? Like you're hitting clubs. If you just started to be like, I was on the street and I had a shirt and it ripped, and this is crazy because like there's nowhere to buy a shirt on this street, and it's like no one.
Emo, you just did Emo Phillips. That was Emo Phillips.
Right.
But I get that like your personal experiences make the most interesting comedy. Like your most fucked up, painful experiences, like morphing that into like Turtle was saying, it's like therapy.
I guess there was a time there like observations was like relatable, like people could relate in those observations, but now people like it's almost like now those observations are all ubiquitous and everybody knows it. So it's like, well, of course if you made that observation, it would be like you're right, but it's not funny. It's like
Yeah,
but
I
if
think
you talk about some personal experience, then somebody could be like, oh yeah, I've personally experienced that thing too, as a gay man or as a fill in the blank, whatever label you want to use.
right. I mean, I think that the thing is, people are. Frost had to go open for a show, but people are so used to
Oh, what happened to
doing.
Bad News Theater? Maybe he had to
When
go
he went
open. He got a call from Kevin Hart.
from Kevin Hart, he needs to go open in Calabasas for some
I
unknown
I don't
comedy
want to
club.
call him. I didn't want to talk shit or anything, and I'm sure he's a nice guy. He's a very hospitable person. But I was just going over the numbers on like if it was a 300 seat venue and he was getting paid
quick
40
math.
grand.
Quick math.
That means that like every seat would have to be minimum $1,800 just for his fee alone.
Yeah.
I was like, this has to be a ginormous stadium tour, and he.
I was like, yeah, so you're doing
out.
like literally like 50,000, maybe like Staples Centers type venues, you know?
Yeah. He's the opener. I'm like, I don't think there's any opener in this country that's making 40,000 from one show.
I don't even. Here's the thing. I'm not saying like those types of Bill Burrs and Kevin Harts aren't making millions or whatever, but I don't know if they're making millions like in one show. They're not make. It's like they're probably getting 40 grand a show. Yeah, I'd be surprised if Kevin Hart was getting 50 grand per venue.
No, they're making it from like a Pepsi private event, like corporate retreat, and then commercials and their net like selling the show later to Netflix. Like that's where they're making that money.
Right. But even if you did like 50,000 seat venues and stuff, like, and you went on like a 12 or 15 city tour, I bet you're making, 2 million the whole tour.
You make most
so
of the
break
money
that
from
up.
merchandise, right? Like you don't make that much from the actual touring.
But
it's
then
about
also you're going to pay into that cost too. Like there's a whole tour bus that you have to employ. There's a whole like crew that you have to come with that comes with you. Like there's all these upfront like costs. Like, so he might be getting contracted to do 2 million a tour, but like,
right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it depends also if you're producing it or not, right? Because like
if
some of those
you're putting
costs
up your own money,
have. But if you're not producing it, you're making even less because like then you're getting a smaller chunk of the pie.
Right. And like, like all of those like venue costs, like all of those employees that work at the venue and stuff, like they're not getting paid by you, but they're definitely like, so that venue is definitely taking a cut of the overall tickets and stuff. Like,
right. No, a lot of tours, like music tours, don't even make like they almost just break even on the touring, but they try to recoup it through merchandise, right? And then
merchandise for sure,
there's still utility even if you're breaking even because it's building this built-in fan base that had this amazing experience, and they will always remember your name because they went to see you in person, right?
It sounded like he wasn't necessarily also doing stand-up, but more of like he's a DJ doing turntables while Kevin Hart's going up on stage.
Yeah, like slight crowd work for $40,000 with some music. Like, next up we got Kevin Hart.
Right? Everybody put up their motherfucking hands. You're like, okay, I guess you're opening. I guess.
Have y'all ever had like a magician on the show with you or anything?
I've opened for a magician for sure.
Nice.
There's a lot of old magicians that are also like comedians, right? Because like magicians are kind of dead.
Oh
like Bernie Shine on this app, right? He's like
there was
a magician.
I think Patton Oswalt had a joke about like what is it about like magicians that think like I need to start doing shitty jokes, and then what is it about comedians that are like I need to start doing shitty magic?
It's like the nature of it. It's like you both stand at a microphone. It's like I'm a performer. I can't sing though. So like it's another type of performance art, you know?
Yeah, right.
I remember that bit. That bit was like, yeah, the magician got shorted like $5 or something, so he was like, meh, disdainfully doing his bit. He's a fucking rabbit. Meh.
Yeah, and he was only
But
getting like $20 or something.
yeah.
And
And
to
I
be a
needed that
comedian,
$20.
you
Yeah.
always or to be a magician, you always had to somewhat be a comedian, right? At least you have to have
Well,
like some
then there
jokes
was
to
like
make it interesting.
then there was like a new school of like magician that like the Chris Angels and the fucking
Rock stars.
David Blaine's and stuff. Then you're like, it's all edgy and like we're all brooding emo magic now.
Right.
Like we don't tell jokes anymore. We're just all.
But it was still character
bad.
work, right? Like it was like I'm a rock star. I'm an evil midget.
Definitely.
Like, but like that's sort of comedy too. It was just like, or it's acting.
I mean,
right?
I like
it's like a performance. It's a character. It's like an Andy Kaufman
character.
bit. Right.
Could you imagine
So
just
is
like
Copperfield's Island?
Can you imagine just any magician just acting that way in his normal life, like just telling his wife like, is it behind your ear? And she's like, god damn it, just can you hand me the towel?
Is it in your vagina? Where is it? Where did the rabbit go? Stop putting a rabbit on my vagina, you fucking dick me down, bitch.
We don't kink shame, but we kink shame that. That's too much.
Can you just fuck me like a
No
normal
rabbit
person?
insertion.
God damn it. Do you always gotta wear a top hat and cape with it too?
Always making it disappear.
Slice you. Yeah. I love that.
I mean, I've definitely been that way with like girlfriends where like, I'll just say certain things that I'm not even trying to be a joke, but they're like, can you not do a bit on me? That wasn't a bit. I was just trying to ask you.
Not everything's a bit. I've had that.
Like one time when we were driving, I passed this like car wash that was never open, but it was always like, it looked like it could be open, but it just never was. And I was and I asked my girlfriend, I was like, what's the deal with? And she's like, can you just stop? And I'm like, I wasn't even going to do a joke. I was just going to.
Just because Seinfeld was so strong with it. She's like, it's a joke. It's going to be. You can't ask what's up with a thing anymore.
You can't ever say what to deal with at all.
Yeah. He could have definitely. If LeBron's trying to get Taco Tuesday, I feel like Seinfeld could own that for sure.
I think he's doing a new movie soon. I think he's like directing a movie and starring in it. I don't know what it's about though.
On the topic of like personal story comedy versus like the Seinfeldy, I still think there's so many comedians just making it at different levels now, and like the reach is there that it feels like you have a lot of people that can like do a show on Hulu or whatever, and then also do that kind of, livening it up. Really, mostly it's like the theater of it. There's like comedians that are very Dane Cook storyteller, telling the story in a funny way, and then there's comedians that just write like really good jokes. I think Rodney Dangerfield is like the best at that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I gotta say, Dane Cook, he's on Clubhouse all the time, and I went up and did a show with him. He's very nice, and he hit me up on Instagram afterwards. Yeah, I think he kind of has to do that because he's sort of like he was never that funny, right? So he's sort of just like he's sort of like an influencer before there were influencers. Yeah, well, that's good.
I like some of his stuff. I think that a lot of people gave him shit early on was because he was kind of the first one to be like social media savvy.
Right. But then he became a head of the
also
game.
an entertainer.
He was using social media before. Yeah. He's like an actor-y type,
Well, yeah. And unfortunately, he was a great stand-up, but he did a lot of shitty movies.
Right.
I'm sure he's like worth it. They paid probably at least $40,000.
And then like I think he got labeled also as like kind of a joke thief as well. Like they talk about it on the Louis episode.
Yeah, I remember that one where he like brought it up, like, and they kind of hashed it out on the show or
Right,
whatever. Like that
right.
would be an interesting process to see how that was written. Like, did they just sit down and have a real conversation and then go from there, or?
I think that's why he's so nice and like responds to everyone and brings people up too, is because he's trying to beat some perception. I think there was some American Idol thing where like he was labeled a homophobe or something because he like yelled at a kid from like an American Idol kid from stealing the stage from him when he was doing jokes. But I was like, why is he doing jokes on American Idol to begin with? That's so weird.
Yeah, it is weird. Like, why would you want Dane Cook on Idol?
Yeah, I think Josh Blue. There's a comedian on America's Got Talent. I've seen them doing some comedy stuff here
Sure.
and there, but
I could
it's
see that. AGT is a lot different for sure. But I understand, like, I don't know, a lot of people, it's things with media too and celebrities, it's always like we liked them and then we hate them. There's always this,
Right.
like, I don't understand why we start to hate them, but now we hate them.
If we get too much of them, people start to hate me. You guys probably hate me.
It's just a
Or
long
like,
enough
each other.
timeline.
you know, like John Mayer and stuff like that. Like, it's like he was a great guitarist, and then as soon as he like fucked 5 women, you're like, yeah, we hate this guy now.
Right, because the problem is the enigma was gone, right? Like the mystery was gone because he became paparazzi fodder and he became like celebrity culture, and then he was seen as like, oh, he's not a good singer because he's just there to like fuck the chicks and who's he. But the funny is Leonardo DiCaprio gets away with that, but I think it's different
Right.
for an actor than a
That's it. And
musician.
like Timothy Chalamet, like there's so many guys that are just like they'll never marry a woman ever. And they'll just fuck through Hollywood and everybody's just like, yeah, I like him. He's a great guy. He makes great movies.
But it's different for an actor
Until-
because they're expected to be part of like celebrity culture. But a musician, everyone wants the dream that the musician is singing to them, right? And they don't like to hear about their oversaturation into celebrity culture.
Yeah, it is weird how like I think people in the rap game too, it's the same way. Like everybody hates Drake and like Kanye now.
Right.
But also I guess it's maybe in fashion too. Like it's like almost like trending to hate somebody.
Right. But people don't have a problem with like Jay-Z because Jay-Z like
Right. Especially with like cancel culture now the way it is. Like it's almost like popular to start to not like somebody. It's like, yeah, we got a campaign to like get somebody canceled.
right. The thing is to get known as a singer or a rapper and then don't make that and then don't speak to the press ever again. That's how you get people to fucking fall in love. Like Beyonce and Jay-Z, they got to a certain level and the way that they maintained it is they just stopped being, they became kind of like gods because you never hear them speak again. You know what I mean?
I saw him on The Shop. You ever watch that TV show with LeBron James on HBO?
No.
It's like a round table type show where they just have like a bunch of celebrities sitting around a barbershop and they like just talk about shit.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's and Jay-Z was on one episode and I think Kevin Hart was on that episode too. And they were just like, sharing stories about shit and they talk a little bit about like how come you're like not really like you're ultra famous, but we don't really see you talking a lot or we don't really see you out there a lot.
It's smart. It's intelligent. I mean, he has to be just there enough that we don't forget about them, right? But these days, you can do that with like pictures and not speaking. You can control your own narrative with social media once they've gotten to that level, right? And I feel like Beyonce and Jay-Z were, I mean, people said that about Britney for a long time too. And now it's just like, well, again, like her state is making so much money because it's still an enigma. People are like, what is happening? Is she being controlled? Like it's literally like no one knows and people want the answer and they'll never get it. And it feels godly. It feels like a fable, right?
Man, Britney is so wanting to start an OnlyFans account. Don't you think? She's so dying to do it.
I think she's just very, very bipolar. And like, I think the people that are bipolar should have autonomy, but like, I don't think that she's as with it as these free Britney people think she is, right? Like, she's definitely just been like totally fucked, molested by the system, and it's very sad. And I can say, as you know, a lawyer who's dealt with these things are always very sad for the families involved. But I think now it's like the media's like the father. And I watched the documentary and I'm like, this is just like playing into this narrative that is this free Britney porn, right? Because there's an audience for it. And they're just like, oh, okay, give them what they want. Get a Rolling Stones journalist to say, like, yeah, he's the villain and like she's Rapunzel and like this Disney fairy. I'm like, no, it's a very complicated, very sad situation of like this pretty dumb family who has this singer who is bipolar and doesn't know what to do, and then essentially ends up exploiting her. But there's no really easy way out of that situation, whether you're a millionaire or not. Like, it's very sad. Britney Spears would probably, if she didn't have billions and billions of dollars, would be homeless on the street, right? Like, that's what happens to schizoaffective bipolar people. And
For sure.
and there's I think that is what is really here, and everyone is trying to figure out like giving her more rational action. Like, no, she's being controlled. Like, what is she trying to say? I'm like, she's just in a manic episode. Like, that's what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
That's not to say I don't
Well,
think that she should be free and that she shouldn't be in a conservatorship. I think people with mental health should have bodily autonomy and should have the autonomy if they want to spend all their money to do that. And that these restrictions on that are from a very antiquated age of we need to control people. And I think we recognize that mental health is way more complicated than that, and that it's okay. I mean, she might end up stabbing someone. And even with getting like this prosecutor attorney representing her and them trying to present to the judge that she should be, the conservator should change, she literally assaulted her maid, because that's what happens when you have bipolar disorder. Like, it's very clear she is not with it. And I don't think that there's a definite villain that is as clear or that it's as black and white as everyone wants to make it out.
I want to play a game where we can let's guess what Britney Spears might buy on Amazon when she's in a manic state.
I think she probably buys everything. She buys like a
That's what I'm
million,
saying. Like,
a million.
What's the most
Cheeto bags.
outlandish thing? Yeah, that she's like, yeah, I'm just gonna order. Yeah, I'll order a pallet of Pepsi. Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah, 2 million cases of Pepsi, 3 million pallets of Cheetos.
I like pallet of Pepsi. That's a nice ring. I like that. They should.
They should start selling pallets. I mean, why aren't they selling pallets at Costco? They should do that. I also feel like she would maybe like order some sort of like weird, like just a llama or some sort of like, alpaca.
Yeah, I think she would. I think she would buy like a tiger.
Yeah. Can you order live animals on Amazon?
No, but I'm sure you can like, I think she probably has a phone. I mean, once she's fully free, she'll just get an assistant and be like, I have millions of dollars, figure this out. Like, I want a big like Barbie dream house.
Don't you think she has an assistant already? I assume she has to have one already,
well,
right?
I think that she was pretty limited while she's technically still in the conservatorship, right? Like, I think that was the point, is like, she's, bipolar, and like when she's in a manic state, she'd just do crazy shit like Kanye does. And then the Kardashians were trying to put him in a conservatorship.
And I think they've talked about, like, I've heard some people talking about this, maybe on Joe Rogan, where they were talking about if you like, understand like this person's bipolar or this person's manic or whatever, there's a chemical imbalance going on. One hand would be like to say like, well, we gotta like, make that more level, or we need to like, correct the imbalance or whatever. But also within doing that, you're kind of
You're
changing
ruining
who
their
that
art.
person is. Yeah, you're
Right.
making them different. Like
There's a
that
reason
person won't
Britney
be Kanye
Spears.
after you drug them up. Like
Right. There's a reason that usually these people that are like these immensely creative people that are able to penetrate the cultural zeitgeist,
yeah,
like there's a correlation, right? And
right,
that's always the yin and yang of all of that, right? Is usually
right.
the most talented people, their mind doesn't work in the same way, or else it
No,
wouldn't be appeasing, right? And so
right,
it's like when you're listening to Emily on here, right? Like her mind can
right,
do
right,
things, you know what I mean? And
right.
can
And
be
like, yeah,
interesting
she's
and
probably
creative. Yeah.
going through certain states that are probably, yeah, chemically different than us. But it's almost like, yeah, but I don't want Emily to stop being Emily.
Right. I mean, that's how I feel like with like ADHD and myself, of like when I'm like really going and I'm like doing something creative, it might be seen off-putting or something that like is not normative. And at some people be like, you should take Adderall, you should suppress that. Uh and not to the same degree as like someone who's bipolar, right? Because like I think there's a difference there, but there's an analogy that is interesting, and I think that usually these creative people are coming from some type of neurodivergency, and it's society trying to make them like these rational actors when they're in a chemical imbalance. And it's just like, no, the reason that this is interesting to you is because they're sounding crazy, because they are crazy, right?
Right, right. But there's a difference between, okay, they're crazy, but in a good way because they make cool art and they go a little nutty or whatever. They might beat up their maid, but like that's overwhelmingly better than somebody goes out and kills like 10 people and eats their bodies.
Right. And most of those people, even in their state, like they don't do that. What happens is like
Well, I
like
guess that's
assault
like
someone or stab
psychopath.
someone.
Like that's
Right.
just like actual, like that's not a bipolar. Maybe they do have those things too, but there's also way more at stake for them.
Right. Well, there's a lot of comorbidity with schizoaffective type disorder and bipolar 1 and 2, though. And there's usually like some types of, because like the DSM-5 just puts these like broad ranging categories, and really there's a lot of crossovers of like what is the way that your synapses and either your serotonin or your dopamine deficiency is working in a lot of ways.
You ever done a lot of MDMA or any type of like?
Yeah. I mean, no. I mean, what? Yeah.
What are the kids calling it? Molly, ecstasy back in the day.
I love that girl, Molly Ringwald. She was hot.
I
But
was
yeah,
never actually a really big Molly Ringwald fan, to be honest. I didn't really like the short red hair.
no, she's like just very like, you know what it is? It's that like bisexuality thing that they were going for. That's still very trendy today, but like they weren't allowed to say it at the time, and that's why I think she was so
She was
appeasing to
very
both women and
androgynous,
men.
for sure.
Yeah, she was very androgynous, and they kind of like put her out that way. She's like, she looks like a boy, but look, she's in like a fluffy pink dress, and like look at this contrast. Right. And that's why I think a lot of it speaks to a broad
I liked her in
audience.
Breakfast Club. Breakfast Club, I liked. She was fine in. Like she's fine in all her movies. She's definitely a competent actress.
Yeah, she was good, and she was quirky, and she played kind of nerdy, but like palatable.
But yeah, like take Breakfast Club for instance. Like I was definitely way more into like Ali Sheedy than Molly Ringwald.
Right. Well, yeah,
But,
you seem like the Ali Sheedy type, though. Like that's your girl.
Yeah. If you watch Ali Sheedy in War Games with Matthew Broderick, she's so cute in that movie, and she's good in it. Good movie overall.
I remember that.
They
Gerald,
also,
do you want to hit up a mic tonight? If we can find a.
I would like to, but I have to babysit my niece this
Just bring
evening.
them along. Let's see what mics there are.
Oh yeah. 6-year-olds are definitely totally welcomed at these types of events. Yeah, seedy bars and horrible other comics around. Yeah, that's perfect environment.
Well, there's the Laugh Factory mic at 4:30. I don't think I'm making that. What?
Are you going to try to do a mic before your show tomorrow, or are you just going to do the show?
I want to do a mic. I would like to. Oh, you know, there's Unseen Contemporary. Have you been there?
No, I haven't.
It's I went last week. It's this like little gallery that's kind of like a shitty hole in the wall in little Ethiopia, but it's free. It's a free mic. And it was cool. They didn't have that many people come, but the
Did
same
you,
place
not heckle as much?
Yeah. But it was cool, and the space is really cool because it's like an art gallery type of thing.
Yeah.
That you can like rent out also for like shows and things if you wanted to.
Right.
I think that's why they kind of do it, is because I think they're trying to get.
Yeah.
I don't really know. I try to figure out like the mindset of some of these places that put on these mics. Because the same place also has like this weird like trap housey feel on another place on Pico, and it's called the Gym Mic. And it's the first 7 that go up, they pay you. They give you $5 and a beer.
Oh shit!
And the whole show is free, and it's really fun. That's on Wednesday though, so I can't go this week because I have a show.
I want to try that one out.
Yeah, that was fun.
I guess that would also naturally bring in a lot of people because, they're paying you.
Yeah, it's a fun, like, it's this weird space. It's like a house, but it's right near the Mint on Pico. Do you know where that is?
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I've been there before.
So it's like right down there, and it looks like this like kind of like shady building, but you walk in and it's all this like weird, cool, like modern, like neon art. Like if you go look at my TikToks or my recent like Instagrams where it looks like I was in some type of like a weird place. I was just at that mic and I was like walking around like
that's dope.
Filming some stuff. But yeah, you should definitely hit that up. But I'm not gonna go to that tomorrow because I'm doing the show. But
you pretty confident in what you're gonna do tomorrow, or
no? I know stuff that I've been practicing. When I've been going to mics, and I'm like, I'm kind of bored of it, but I'm like, I know what's hitting. I always have this this is my problem, is I'm very much like, I like to just improv the newest idea, the newest, shiniest idea in my head, but I know I need to do the material that I've actually know will get laughs. You know what I mean? But
right. Well, maybe not open with the improv, or I don't know, open with improv and then end with stuff,
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like, it's not like, it's still like, it's just a 5-minute show. I can still just do what I want to do.
It's only 5 minutes. So, I mean, 5 minutes is not, you don't really get a lot to talk about.
Right. I don't know. I have different material stuff and that I need to like reassemble, but I'm pretty sure I know what I'm going to do.
Nice.
Do you feel like you always have your like set if you're like booked on a show that you're always going to do, or do you always change it up?
Depending on what the show is, and depending on how much time I have, I'll definitely probably have it pretty mapped out of like, I want to do this, 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 and this.
Right.
And then, but then I'll also like give myself, because I usually, even if I tell myself like I want to do these 5 jokes or I'll do these 5 premises, usually
it hits differently or will come out differently on stage or something.
Right. Or I'll get to 3 of them or whatever. Or suddenly, because of something in the audience, it sparks this other joke that I'm like, okay, that'll actually work more with this audience thing than if I was going to just go into what I was initially wanting to think about. But it's only because I'm in that moment and I'm like, well, I'm pivoting because there's an opportunity to pivot, which would naturally lead into something good instead of like, no, if I led into that, but without that pivot, it'd just be some weird non sequitur.
Right.
But yeah, I always give myself a little bit of room to like let myself like be in the moment. So it's like I'm not so rigid and like I gotta say these 5 things and I can't not not say these 5 things. It's like, no, you could say these things, or you could say these other things that maybe, but also be open to what happens with the crowd, or if they're, if they don't like the first 3 jokes that are about dating, why keep going on with dating?
Right. I mean, that's the big thing is like, I feel like I have 2 kind of big topics that I could do in 5 minutes. I could talk about being a burnt out lawyer and do that set, or I could talk about like gay dating. And I feel like the burnt out lawyer stuff is more unique because like every gay lawyer is just talking about being gay and the trauma from being gay. And
I feel like, I guess there's less people talking about being a lawyer than being gay, for sure.
But I sometimes don't think it's funny. Like I feel like I tend to get laughs on it, but like I've gotten some feedback of like, oh yeah, I'm a lawyer and I'm a comedian. Like I've never made that work because like people just don't find like they're not going to be able to relate because it's not for a comedy show.
True.
It's like,
I don't think that's true at all.
I also think just like public defender trauma is different than like you were a tax lawyer and you got tired of it, right? Like it's different when you are talking about like your client murdered someone and you being like, well, I have imposter syndrome. Yeah. And then like
I think that's the thing. Like certain types of lawyers might get less relatable because like if you don't see that type of lawyer on TV, you're probably not going to know that type of lawyer exists.
Right. Or it's just like you didn't come up with a good set and you were like, it was too trauma for you, right? And you weren't ready to share it.
Or because I don't have a good joke about being a cashier at Wendy's doesn't mean somebody else can't have a good joke about that.
Right.
That's just me. That was just my experience or whatever or I'm just a bad joke writer.
Right. And I think some of these people, they're like, oh, they don't relate to them. Like the only thing that they relate to for you is like really raunchy, like really going blue stuff. And it's like, you might not be a very good writer. That's why, right? Like if you have to go blue to get a laugh, like you might not be a good comedian. You need to just spend some more time writing.
Yeah, right. Everybody has like, you have the ability to do it. It's just what falls naturally to you might be a dirtier joke. But then it's like, okay, well, now you need to push yourself. Now you need to get out of your comfort zone and be a writer that can write for anything instead of just being a writer that like just writes what they want to write.
Right. I mean, I find that sometimes the problem is for people is like, you really have to workshop it sometimes if you're doing it clean, to figure out where that laugh is and figure out what that misdirect is. Because like, just talk about big titties and a moist vagina, that like someone's gonna laugh because someone's high and someone's drunk and they're like, titties, you know what I mean? But
but here's
that's
the thing
also
about
never gonna get you to the next level either.
People say like, oh, I can't be clean because I can't whatever, and it's like, no, you can be clean and still talk about adult subjects.
Right.
You just gotta be more creative. Like instead of just saying like I was fucking my wife the other night, you can say like me and my wife were having sex. Like that's still a clean premise. Like or we were making love, or you could have a euphemism, we were doing the deed or whatever. And still talk about some funny thing that happened while you guys were having, an intimate moment. But it's still like Brian Regan, Jim Gaffigan, all these types of clean comics would talk about these still things. Like they just don't use cursing. They're not filthy about it.
Right. I mean, because the thing about comedy is it's like, what is taboo? So it's like they just, instead of thinking about it in a way where they're like actually figuring out a misdirect and structuring it or doing it in a way where they've really thought it out, they're like, they got up on stage and got scared and then they immediately went for the like, the thing that they knew was going to get laughs right away, whether that's like just like doing an act out of their Chinese mom or like their big dick joke or what have you.
Like Jim Gaffigan has talked like jokes about like, man, if you told a 14-year-old me like, hey, because he has 5 kids, and he was like, if you told a 14-year-old me like you're gonna have sex 5 times in your life, he was like, wow, really? That's awesome. But it's like, but later he's like, yeah, but it's gonna make 5 kids, and he's like, oh well, that's gonna suck.
Yeah,
But that's
I
the
mean,
thing. That's a clean joke. It's not a dirty. It's not like,
right.
but it is about sex, I guess.
I mean, I
But
think
I
it
could tell
depends
that.
on the
But you
rules
could
of the
tell that to your
clean. Like
grandmother. You could tell that on the Tonight Show, and it
right,
wouldn't.
you can tell
They
that on
don't.
the
They don't.
Tonight Show. You can't tell it at like a church, like Mike, maybe, but like
Maybe I wouldn't do like it at a private. I don't know. Even at a private event, like a corporate gig, I could probably still see it getting. It could fly by.
yeah, a lot of times on your like the contract, they've like very detailed, like nothing about sex, right? Or like
Right. Or I think it's usually more like don't say anything disparaging about the company. Don't
or any
like talk about
minority
the
group punch up,
right,
do like
right,
Ellen
exactly.
DeGeneres comedy.
Right.
Because they
Don't talk
kind of
about
want you to be a motivational speaker / who's funny, right? Like
right. But I feel like yeah, there's plenty of I mean, I was telling you before, open up for this magician. We would do like proms and different like types of like school events for this party planner. And it was a good gig. Not as cool as Bad News Bears. I was only getting $70, but still a
gosh,
decent gig.
Bad News Bears has you beat.
I know. But he was so I was like doing it was a 2 show, like so I did 10 minutes 2 times a night. And it was opening for this magician / like hypnotist. So he was like, doing it all this like things for the kids and stuff. But I would like open up, and yeah, all it is was like I had to go super, super clean. Like they were definitely like, don't talk about drugs, don't talk about sex, don't talk about the principal, don't talk about any of this. Like, don't talk about, school shootings, obviously. Like
It's like you're
I
on
was
a
like,
Nickelodeon show, or like like
yeah,
that. Those are comedians.
totally.
Those are comic writers on their shows because
And I would
kids
literally do
understand
stuff.
funniness too. You just have to
And I would
be.
literally do jokes like, wouldn't it be funny if we could fart on a bike and it would boost us? And like the harder the fart, the like bigger the boost. And they would love it. They would totally just be like, "Yep, you're talking about fart joke. Cool. Awesome. I'm in."
You know how everyone's talking about this Nickelodeon guy who was behind all the Nick shows? I forget his name, but like he was behind all.
Mm-hmm.
Not when I was little, but
no, it was this guy that like totally made it like about like, hey, we got to rebrand this into like kid shows that like kids want to watch, not like what parents want their kids to watch.
Right. They like said like he like revolutionized Nickelodeon, but now there's all these stories about like he was like creepy or something, or like into feet or something. And I kind of wonder, I'm like, is that just cancel culture, just like being really thirsty for like the cancel culture content creator? Because that's a whole cottage industry of like,
how many people?
What did you say?
You know how many people I heard, especially around the comedy scene, but even just regular people that I talked to at parties and stuff, that got so upset when they said that they watched the documentary about Mr. Rogers, and then it just turned out that he was just a nice guy.
You're right, because that's boring to people, right?
Yeah, they're like, he didn't touch any of them. He's not a creep. What the fuck?
That ruins all my jokes.
Right, exactly. It's like, and they're almost like literally like, you built me up for something that had no payoff or whatever. Like I literally got like blue balls because there was no like, it was just a good wholesome moral story. That's not enough anymore.
Right, we're so addicted because of like those VH1 shows from like the early 2000s and everything, of just being like, everyone in Hollywood is anorexic and a pedophile,
right.
and like
and there's always big old drama going on.
Right.
You know how horrible, sad, and depressed all Fleetwood Mac was? Let's tell you all about it.
every chick is a bitch and they're on drugs and everyone's a horrible person and there's no nice people. It's like we were talking about the free Britney porn. It's the enigma is this true? Is this got like, but there's a lot anyway, there's a lot of these content creators about this guy who created all of modern Nickelodeon shows and how he was like really creepy, and like there's rumors that he might have actually like impregnated like Jamie Lynn Spears.
What? Was she like a Nickelodeon star? I didn't know that.
Yeah, she was on a Nickelodeon show. I was too old at the time to know about it, but like I think I knew about it. It was like, oh, Spears' sister is also on Nickelodeon now, but I forgot what it was. But they canceled the show because she got pregnant and she was like 16.
I do remember that. Yeah, I remember that it was a big scandal that she got pregnant.
Right. Like, oh, the Spears sisters. That's so surprising. Louisiana family.
But I thought it was like, one of the Jonas brothers or whatever. I don't know, Zach or Cody or something.
I don't know if we ever found out or they ever made it public, but there's some speculation that it's also like this guy who was the showrunner for that show and like the Amanda Bynes show, and
well, she went nutso, right, too?
Right. But I'm just like, I just think that like if this happened, that's horrible, but it's like in Hollywood there's a lot of, gatekeepers that let anything happen for like a creative outlet, but like that this could really happen, I don't know. That like this guy's just like molesting all the Nickelodeon stars and that they're all like have been
How would it have not come out though? Yeah, how does that not come out? But Harvey Weinstein comes out.
Well, it's coming out now. Like they're saying like Ariana Grande and all these things. I mean, because these stars, their fan base is also younger, so they don't want to, I mean, I think a lot of the Harvey Weinstein people also the same thing. Like the stars don't want to come out and be public about it. Like any of the really big A-listers didn't really say anything about Harvey Weinstein. It was like your Rose Byrnes and your kind of like C-list or like have kind of burnt out actresses that were like, yeah, I get attention again.
What was it? What Ashley Judd or whatever? She was like famously first on the list.
Yeah, Ashley Judd. Who's the
Rose
woman?
McGowan.
Patricia Arquette, I think.
Right. Yeah, I could see a few for sure. But also in a weird way, it wasn't like a Jennifer Aniston or like a, Meryl Streep.
Yeah, but there's rumors that there was like Angelina Jolie and Gwyneth Paltrow's, and those stars had also all been victimized, but like they're still A-listers. They're still getting calls for movies, so like they don't want
right.
to
they don't get blacklisted.
Right.
Yeah, like ScarJo's definitely getting a call still.
Yeah. ScarJo isn't letting anything touch her Marvel money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she's definitely set for her life. But I also think ScarJo is a great actress, to be honest. She's in a lot of really good films.
Yeah. I mean, I think good for her for like pivoting from like, quirky movies that she originally did to like Marvel and like actually like making bank and being like, Zooey Deschanel can get my paychecks now. That takes balls.
Yeah, what has she been in lately?
Zooey Deschanel, she had it like she went to television after like making the same movie 5 times in a row that Scarlett Johansson used to make.
Yeah. I bet like they probably have been on so many auditions together. Like when they were like, when she got like Ghost World and shit like that. I bet Zooey Deschanel auditioned for Ghost World.
Oh yeah, for sure. But Scarlett Johansson is like the epitome, like the golden ratio, like. And
what do you mean?
Like she's like proportional, very symmetrical.
Symmetric. Oh yeah, she's so hot.
Zooey Deschanel needs the bangs to pull it off. They're like, you're symmetrical up to this point. Let's cover all this with hair.
I think there's the different type of girl. That's the thing. It's like, there's just two. This is like classic beauty, and then Zooey Deschanel is like more of this like cute, adorable beauty.
Well, are they marketing you to women, or are they marketing you to men too? Right. And originally, Scarlett Johansson was like being marketed to women when she was like in her late teens to early 20s, and she was doing all those like indie Ghost World things. But maybe actually also men. It was like kind of like being masked because like they're like, she's nerd. It's usually when they're at that age, they're like, look how like she's nerdy, she's accessible, but it's actually she's like the most beautiful woman in the world, and they like punch it down, putting some glasses on her. You know,
it's the same thing with like Marilyn Monroe and like How to Meet a Man or How to Meet a Millionaire or Marry a Millionaire or something like that. And she's like this obviously Marilyn Monroe,
right?
But like they play her off as like this like quote unquote like old maid or like this like ugly girl because she's just wearing glasses. And you're like, that's it? She's fucking Marilyn Monroe with glasses on. Like she's still gorgeous. Like
I mean,
like I wouldn't like as a like, and in the movie there's totally dudes that would be like, oh man, you would make a fine wife if you didn't have those glasses.
There's no actual like nerdy girls in film, like in a movie, right? Like typically,
well, they
like they might be
there's
nerdy, but like
that they actually call it. It's called the pixie dream girl.
Right, the manic pixie. Well, there's more to the manic pixie dream girl, right? Because it's all about she's this idea of this quirky nerdy girl who doesn't have any personality or traits other than to prop up the male character, and she just like she's goofy, and she'll follow your character around, and she'll
and it's
play
always
video
because
games
she's
with
dating
you,
this
and
like
she wants to suck
uptight
your
like
dick.
guy that's like, I don't want to have fun ever, and she's like, but you have to have fun, and I'm gonna show you how.
Right. She's gonna get you out of your depression. Like she's all dopamine all the time, and she has no problems of her own, but she's still a nerd.
Or her problems are like, like I had to bury my turtle.
Right. Well, that's still porn, right? Because it's like you have empathy for the nerdy hot girl who has to, and like you're gonna feel hard because you get to be like, oh, it's okay, little girl. It's kind of like
I get to save you now.
Right. I mean, they say Natalie Portman in
of course
in Garden State is the prototype of the. That's where the word was coined by like some academics, but like
porn.
What?
And it makes total sense too, because after Garden State, you see tons of movies that just have that same trope now. Like every single movie that's like a rom-com in the early 2000s is like that.
Right. Because it was literally porn. It was PG-13 porn of like, this is the girl you want, and she's going to do whatever you want, and you never have to deal with that. She wants her own things, or she has her own, like.
It made guys want to like watch rom-coms. That's what it made, dude. That's what it made. It made it like palatable. So like the girl is still like, oh, I want to be that girl because that girl seems appealing. Who wouldn't want to be this quirky girl that's cute in a fucking like, mini skirt and shit.
Right. And it's still about getting the guy, but it's also there's a male character, right? And it's like, but he's a goofy dude instead of like the Prince Charming. He's like Zach Braff. He's Jewish. Do you love how the nerds in Hollywood are always just like very good looking models, but happen to look a little Jewy, and they're like, he's so quirky and relatable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, the Joseph Gordon-Levitt, or Zach Braff, or even Zach, that guy that was in Chuck.
Or anyone that's in any Wes Anderson movie.
Pretty much. I heard he's coming out with a new movie soon this month.
The French, what's it called?
I'm not aware. I don't know.
It's really good. I mean, I haven't seen it, but I've seen the trailer, and it's like, I mean, it's like they gave him a big budget, and it's Wes Anderson, so it looks like Wes Anderson movies just look like a fashion magazine, but like with actors in it and like acting. Yeah. Like it's always just about the aesthetic. That's a good way to describe
it. I've never heard that expression, but it's so perfect. Like, yeah, it's a fashion magazine. You're totally right.
It's all about just a fashion magazine movie with actors in it.
And then like every like setup, every shot is just like if you were to see like be scrolling through GQ, you're like I could see this and yep, this would be a good little setup for how to sell a fucking suit.
Right. It literally looks like a clothing ad every single shot.
I actually, no joke, there are so many times where I've watched a Wes Anderson movie and I've been like, man, that is a great suit. I would love to wear that. I would love to wear that outfit.
There's a reason.
like
there's
every
the plot
dude, I'm like,
never
man,
makes
that's a
sense. It's
snappy
like
outfit.
the plot is always just like loosely stolen from Catcher in the Rye. It's always about just like Catcher in the Rye.
Right.
And then it's he just has a JD Salinger heart on, and it doesn't matter because it's all about just a fashion show.
I will say my favorite is probably Steve Zissou, but I don't think that's very Wes Anderson-ish. I mean, there are moments where you're like, well, that's definitely clearly him. But other times, like he's not quite as like painting. He's not quite as like strict with his like it has to look like it's a play.
Right. I love the Royal Tenenbaums. I mean, I just think I saw it at a time, and I'm writing like a screenplay right now that's kind of like based off of that. Maybe I'll write a character for you to be in it.
Tenenbaums is really dope because it hones to a certain type of person that like it's like that. I definitely kind of could relate to it too because I mean I think it was at a time when people were definitely like a lot of parents are very neglectful even though we're not doing bad in our lives.
Right. Well, it's also about like kind of the tiger mom like perfectionism thing, right?
Yes.
Like where like parents they're not being mean to you like with deliberate abuse, but there's this projection of the American dream and that you all have to be savants and be the smartest. And so then all these adopted kids are just these depressed geniuses, right? In their 40s, right? Like I think that speaks to something that wasn't spoken about and still isn't like being spoken about. That's very interesting that I relate to.
Well, now people will just be like, they're just a bunch of privileged assholes.
Right. But there's a specific trauma from being like, having this pressure to be the very best, right? And burnout.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I think any like Asian, family could realize that. Like, talk to any like Asian like college student, and I guarantee you, there's like, there's no getting B's in my house.
Right. And the dad character, right? Like he was kind of a crook, but like he showed them how, like they know that they wouldn't be who they are, but he's also like this very traumatizing, like absentee father as they see him, and the conflict between the children and the dad, and the relationship between the mom as well. I mean, I don't know. Angelica Houston's character is not really
Angelica Houston. She just crushes it. She's perfect, and I love Gene Hackman too. He's perfect too. It's so well casted.
Angelica Houston rocks that role, but I do think that she's a little bit of like a messed up character in that, like,
oh yeah, they're all
mothers usually are tied to the trauma as well, right? And the idea that like she's just like, oh yeah, it was the dad, and like I then like remarried this black guy, and they don't really explore any of like her idiosyncrasies because that's just, I think Wes Anderson's probably just he's a dude. He comes from a male perspective and he's just putting a pretty picture up. But I mean, it's a great movie.
I also think all the siblings were great. The little side characters are great.
Right.
It's also like not even, again, it's not quite play style now. It's not quite like Moonrise Kingdom or like, Budapest. It's not quite there yet. Even though it's obviously like it's still his. It's still not like Bottle Rocket. It's not like Rushmore.
I mean, I think it's very him. Like every scene is just so like you're like very stylized. It's all about just finding aesthetics. It's like where's the most Instagrammable locations in New York that give you nostalgia porn, right?
Well, I think that he just takes that maybe from Woody Allen a little.
Yeah. I mean, location scouting and like creating these sets is like 50% of his whole thing, right? It's like,
I mean, I would assume, that takes a large majority of like his time is like, just scouting and doing production design.
Yeah. I mean, he's writing for, he's writing. I mean, that's hard labor that's going into the writing of coming up with like, luxurious aesthetics that are come onto the screen. Because it's usually like this omniscient narrator. The actual filming, like there's not much dialogue. It's a lot of like very understated acting, but that's the hardest type of acting when you don't have the words, right? And that's what actors are like. That's a challenge because it's it's acting while being a model.
Yeah. Do you think they're always like worried about their looks more or worried about their acting more?
I mean, I think it's both. I mean, when you're looks are your acting, it's your art, right? Like your expression. And the film, when you're on film, it picks up everything, right? Like film acting is all about just connection with the eyes and being able to emote from inside. Like if you're faking it, you can tell. You can tell when someone's a bad actor, and you don't see bad actors because they're weeded out by casting directors unless they're just a social media person. Or like,
right. I mean, doing those, it's weird because I've done stage plays and stuff like that, and I've done even doing those like sketches with Justin and stuff. Like I look back at them and I'm like, I wouldn't say this is great acting.
It's so hard. You really have to be good acting on film. It's less is more can never be as understated. You know what I mean? Like as deadpan and say the line without doing anything but emoting. Like don't give away the line. Like care about it and think about it and then throw it away, they say, right? And it's all about really giving almost nothing, but it will be there. Your essence will show through because human essence is just so.
And like the improv acting though, or like the mumblecore type of thing, where it's like a lot of Duplass brothers and stuff, where it's like I'm acting, but I'm also not worried about the script necessarily. I'm worried about like keeping this conversation on track or whatever, or getting to certain beats. But it's the in between parts that are like I'm just gonna go with it.
Right, but that's like Saturday Night Live or improv on film it's different than improv show, right? Like you have to make your mark. You have to look in the character. You have to barely move your face and then improv, right?
Right. Yeah, get in the frame, do all this stuff that you need to do as an actor, but also stay in the moment and just talk about nothing.
Right.
But also be interesting too. Like don't we're making a movie here. Like don't just literally talk about nothing.
Right. Or even now all podcasts they're being filmed and too. It's like to be funny sometimes you have to also be still. You know what I mean? On film.
Yeah, it's weird. And also like everybody just thinks like, oh, it'll be so easy, and you're like, sure it is. Like again, like any great art, like they just make it look easy.
Right. And there's a reason that they cost a lot of money to make because like there's a reason that there's a whole union of makeup artists that are required. Because if people could just do their own makeup for film, no, there's a laborious practice of making all these people look essentially like unattainable clowns, like sexy clowns,
Right. No, you're so right. Like, yeah, it's like there is a real big art to like making this person look beautiful.
Right. And people are like, well, it's crazy how many like filters Instagram has and all these things. And I'm like, that's literally what the movie, and that's like if they're going to compete and people are going to compete with traditional gatekeepers and social media is now giving you the audience and you can do an Instagram live and or a YouTube and you now have the ability to have that power, that's not different than what a movie studio has. They have a team of makeup artists, right? And so that's okay.
even like it's so weird too because like even like back in the day, you'd maybe have like these classic like character actors where it's like they weren't traditionally attractive, but they were great actors. You
Right.
know, I could name off a bunch, but I'm sure you can think of some.
But in real life, they would be traditionally attractive. They would probably look more
maybe
attractive
I don't
than you
know.
would think,
Like you think
right?
like Ernest Borgnine or like Stephen Root or like Christopher Lloyd would be like getting puss without being like an actor. Like
Yeah, I think so. I think Christopher Lloyd would. I don't know those other people. I think Steve Buscemi gets a lot of puss.
but do you think like he would have before he was an actor?
I think so. I think that like in real life, he's not as. I
Like
don't
obviously
think
like
he's as jarring because
like Ryan
the
Gosling
screen
could have
makes
like
everything look
I would
different.
like I'm not worried about Ryan Gosling getting a wife or finding some women to fuck if he wasn't an actor. I'm sure he could still make it work.
Right. Most people make it work. It's kind of like our human nature, right? Like you find the partner for you. Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm speaking to the because I don't
I was
have
gonna
one.
say like lately I've been definitely thinking like I don't know if I think when somebody say like oh you everybody has a soulmate or there's always someone out there for you, I was like I think the person that was meant for me like died in childbirth or something.
Well,
Like
a
they were
soulmate's
never
different,
they
but like you
were gonna
definitely
be
someone
here,
who
but
will procreate with you, right? You're like, no.
maybe. I mean, I guess I could still do it if I had to. I mean, the weird thing about it is that like um during this pandemic or whatever, with a lot of like obviously a dry spell, um, it did make me think like, and I've never really thought about it that much before, but I did think to myself like, man, wouldn't it be good to just call up a girl and pay her and have sex with her?
Yeah, that's why that's the oldest industry. It's not an accident.
Like I never thought about it, but prior to the pandemic, but during like 6 months into just sitting in my home by myself, I was like, man, it would be cool to just get laid right now. To just whether or not I have to pay for it or had somebody that was like, hey, that's the weird thing is that like I thought it was like the end of the world, so you could always like tell people like what those kids did in fucking Independence Day, like, hey, the world's about to end. You don't want to die a virgin, do you?
Yeah, people say that, but it turns out like the pandemic showed us that people just they want to try to survive, I guess.
Yeah,
Or
they
they
don't
just
want to
go
just like
crazy and they
fucking.
pretend the world's not ending, or they they
But I
distract
definitely like
themselves
kind of
by just
threw
saying it's
that
not
out there,
real.
like, hey, it's like maybe the world's going to shit. Maybe we should like just hook up to make us feel distract ourselves and feel a little better. And they're like, yeah, I'd kind of like not want to. I don't want to interact with anybody. And you're like, well, I get that too. It would have been cool though. Like it actually spawned a premise like where I was like, what if, and maybe this is just a porno movie and not a real movie, but what if
There's always a
in
real
order
movie version of it, like Garden State, right?
like in order to like there is a pandemic, but in order to save yourself, you have to fuck somebody. Like you have to like basically like in order to like keep the virus at bay, you've had to have had like sex every 24 hours. So you're literally now like forced to like have sex every day with somebody in order to keep this virus from happening or infecting you. But it sounds good at some point, obviously. Like so, like yeah, there's a lot of people that are now going to have sex that weren't having sex, but that's just out of necessity because they don't want to get infected. But eventually, now it's turned into a chore. Now it's turned into like this. Now I just got to do it, and I don't want to do it, but I have to do it.
What's that dystopia? That reminds me of that dystopian novel where like sex has been like destigmatized, but also like no one has personal autonomy to their body. Like everyone's body is just accessible to everyone. Like if like I want to have sex with you, like you just have to let me, and like it's not okay to sleep. And
Right.
yeah,
Like there's just no like real consent or anything. It's just like,
yeah,
hey, this
consent
person
doesn't
wants
exist. Yeah, but it's not rape either, right? Because part of the like trauma of rape
Right.
is that like
I've
invading your
never heard that
personal
story.
property, right? But you don't have any personal property, so it's like a statement about kind of like socialism. I think I might have made it up, but I definitely
I
think I
always
was supposed to
remember
read
like
it
this
in
was
English
like
class.
I just remember those like Star Trek episodes where they would have like the hedonism planet where they would have like all autonomy and stuff, and like everybody would be like, "Hey, would you like to have sex?" Like, so they would ask consent, but there would never be like a no, I'm not. I don't want to do that. There would always be like, "Hell yeah, I do. Let's do it."
That's its own problem because that's just like there is personal autonomy, but like you're really and you're just like a blue baller, you know?
So it was this weird like we're all having sex, we're all hanging out, having fun, but like there is no like real like nobody's saying like I don't want to have sex with you. You're a fucking creep.
Right. We have these 3 messages. Should we play them?
Sure.
Now, y'all know that COVID was over, right? So I threw my mask away. Well, I found me a pretty lady the other day to wear on my face due to the Delta variant.
Thanks, Library Z. I love that.
I agree with you, Turtle. Some people try too hard at comedy, and then guess what it is? It's not comedy, it's insultive.
I don't know when that was from, but I'm sorry if I insulted you, Library Z, and we love you.
I think that you should have enough versatility as a comedian to just please any audience. If you have to do clean comedy, do clean comedy. But if you can't, don't.
Yeah, I mean, you're never going to be able to, like, be very successful because, like, eventually, if you want to be in movies and if you want to, like, branch out and do corporate gigs or, like, play theaters to a greater mass audience, you know?
Right. Well, I bring up this story, and I think I might have told you before. I don't know. I've told this story a bunch of times because it always kind of makes sense when it comes to this type of scenario, like whether or not you should change your values or change who you are as a comic versus do whatever it takes to get more famous and get a gig or just, be successful in comedy. Jim Brewer was talking about this on his podcast where he was talking about how he was doing a show with Dave Attell. So it was like him and Dave Attell doing like a dual bill. And like it was like some corporate event or whatever. And the corporate event definitely had this like, hey, it's got to be clean or you can't talk about this, this, and this. You got to do all this other stuff. And like Jim Brewer is like, oh man, I was going to, obviously he's not a clean comic. They're both not clean. But they were definitely thinking to themselves like, okay, well, what do I do? Like, do I conform or do I just like, be myself and just say fuck them? I'm going to do whatever I want. And Jim Brewer basically said like, I'm going to do what they want and I'm going to do the gig how they want because I still want to get paid. And Dave Attell was like, nope, I'm going to just do my set. And Jim Brewer got paid and Dave Attell didn't.
Right. Because, like, they violated the rules of.
Right. And then obviously it's like, well, part of him is like, well, I don't care about money. I want to do myself. Like, I'm just going to do it. I don't give a fuck. Whether or not I get famous or not, that's beside the point. But like Jim Brewer's like, no, I want another gig tomorrow or I need this money.
Right. I mean, here's the thing is even Netflix, when they're reviewing your special, if it's all blue comedy and they're like, this isn't going to pass, like a lot of that stuff gets nixed by the lawyers. Like, as an attorney,
yeah.
I can tell you,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
if you can't do clean comedy, you're never going to make it to that next, you're never going to make it out of just comedy
I've heard
clubs,
like
basically.
literally like on late night sets and stuff like that. And like, yeah, any type of like, when you're doing like a Comedy Central special or anything like that, anything to do with TV nowadays, especially when it has to do with stand up, they literally want a transcript of every single joke you're going to do before you even do it on their special. They already want to know everything like that you're going to say and do. They don't
Right.
want anything to be like, oh, you're just going to like, talk about this and then we're just going to film it and be pleased with. No, they don't.
Well, usually I think what they do is, of what I've heard, is they film it as